Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Naruto started cultivating immortality from creating the six-fold immortal thief. Chapter 61. Far away, Onoki, who was supervising the battle, saw this scene and his face turned extremely ugly. He secretly exclaimed in his heart, "Not good." Then he performed the super light heavy rock technique without hesitation. As the chakra surged, Onoki's body gradually became lighter, as if he had lost gravity. He kicked his feet hard, and the whole person rushed towards the battlefield like an arrow from a string. Onoki didn't care whether the Four Tails and Old Purple were dead or not. Anyway, he himself hated this Jinchuriki who disobeyed him very much, but at this moment he had to save him. Once the Four Tails died, he and Han would not be able to be Yusuke's opponent. In the blink of an eye, Onoki had reached the edge of the battlefield. He looked around and saw that the Four Tails could no longer get up. The chakra at the wound was constantly flowing out like magma, and it was obvious that it had lost its combat effectiveness. Seeing this, Han next to him did not care that he would be assimilated by King Mu, and unlocked the seal in his body. He began to transform into a tailed beast, turning into a creature that combined a dolphin and a horse, with 5 tails behind him. After King Mu appeared, he looked at Yusuke with a serious face, and steam surrounded his body. The next second, under the blessing of boiling escape, his whole body turned into a blue light column and rushed out, and the 5 sharp horns on his head pointed directly at Yusuke's vitals. Although for some reasons, the relationship between the tailed beasts is not good, such as the 9-tailed and 1-tailed often quarreling because of the number of tails, but when facing a common threat, they will still help each other and fight the enemy together. Earth escape. Earth flow wall. Seeing King Mu rushing towards him, Shangji reacted quickly and a wall of earth suddenly appeared in front of him. Boom! King Mu hit the earth wall hard, making a loud noise, but the earth wall only had some cracks and did not collapse. Shangji's eyes condensed slightly and whispered, "What a strong impact force." At this time, Onoki also came not far behind Yusuke. He quickly formed seals with his hands, then pushed forward and shouted, "Dust release, original realm peeling technique." In an instant, a milky white cone-shaped beam of light shot out towards Yusuke, trying to decompose Yusuke with the power of dust release. Seeing this, Yusuke did not dodge and let the dust release bombard him. "Onoki, dust release has no effect on me anymore." The dust release swept over Yusuke without even damaging his clothes. Seeing this, Onoki's eyes dimmed, and he finally accepted that dust release was useless to Yusuke, but he didn't give up. Without dust release, he still had earth release, wind release, and fire release, and there was always one that could hurt Yusuke. Earth escape. Gangly style technique. He quickly formed seals with both hands, and the ground rose rapidly. A 50-meter tall rock monster rose from the ground, and then rushed towards Yusuke waving a giant rock fist. Yusuke looked at the rock giant rushing over, and the corners of his mouth slightly raised, revealing a disdainful smile. Although this rock giant was created by the rock ninja to deal with Uchiha Madara's Susanoo, it is far less flexible than Susanoo and the wooden man, and even its defense is a mess. Yusuke flashed and dodged the attack of the rock giant, and at the same time, a red chakra ball appeared in his hand. Senjutsu Rasengan. Yusuke shouted and threw the Rasengan at the rock giant. When the Rasengan touched the rock giant, it exploded into a 20-meter-long ball of fire, which spun at high speed and burned the rock giant to ashes in the blink of an eye. Seeing this, Onoki was shocked. Yusuke turned and looked at Onoki, with a hint of murderous intent in his eyes. However, Onoki was flying in the air. Even if he was 50 meters tall now, it would be useless if he could not hit the target if he was flying at a height of several hundred meters. So Yusuke decided to deal with King Mu and the Four Tails first. Putting his hands together, he pulled out a dark golden long sword and struck it with one sword. After swinging, one of the Four Tails' tails was broken, and it was sealed in the seal wristband. At this critical moment, a giant purple-black chakra ball whizzed and flew like a cannonball. This amazing scene made everyone dumbfounded, and this chakra ball was the tailed beast ball launched by the extremely powerful King Mu. The tailed beast ball carried unparalleled power and might, as if it was going to tear the entire space apart. It passed through the void at an astonishing speed and bombarded the target directly. The purple-black light was dazzling and shocking. As the tailed beast ball approached, the surrounding air was stirred violently, forming a powerful vortex of airflow. The dust on the ground flew up in the wind, forming a spectacular sandstorm. And all this was just the residual power brought by the tailed beast ball. Seeing that the tailed beast ball was about to hit the target, people's heartbeats almost stopped. They stared at this thrilling scene, unable to imagine what would happen next. And at this tense moment, a shocking explosion seemed inevitable. Yusuke's eyes turned cold, and the dark golden sword it exuded a heavy aura like a mountain. In the shocked eyes of everyone, with a simple upward thrust, the extremely powerful tailed beast ball was lifted up to a height of 10,000 meters. The tailed beast ball exploded in the sky, triggering a gorgeous fireworks feast. Onoki stared at this scene with his eyes wide open in disbelief. A sense of despair surged in his heart. Even the tailed beast ball, a move that represented destruction, had no effect on Yusuke. A stream of scorching steam spurted out of King Emu's mouth, and his eyes revealed unyielding and anger. However, facing an opponent with a huge disparity in strength, it also felt powerless. Shadow Clone Technique. He formed seals with both hands, and 2 shadow clones appeared beside him, one to seal the immobile 4 tails and the Onoki in the air. Yusuke walked towards King Mu step by step, with supreme pressure in every step. His eyes were cold and firm, as if announcing the fate of the other party. King Mu roared and tried to resist with his last strength. But Yusuke's swordsmanship was like a ghost, easily breaking through King Emu's defense and easily cutting off a piece of King Emu's tail. Boom! The huge tail fell to the ground. Without stopping, Shangji appeared in front of King Mu the next second, and the sword slashed through King Emu's body. King Mu wailed, and his huge body slowly fell down. 4 symbols seal. He formed a seal with his hands again, and Yusuke's big hand pressed on the huge body of King Mu. The seal spread all over King Emu's body, and King Mu slowly turned back into a human body. At the same time, the 4-tailed beast beside him was also sealed back into Lao Zi's body by the shadow clone. After doing all this, Yusuke also lifted the super multiplication technique in the shadow clone. The consumption of using the shadow clone under the super multiplication technique is also huge, and it is better to reduce some of the consumption. Besides, the large size does not have too many advantages against Onoki. Onoki first glanced at Yusuke, and then turned his attention to the battlefield. Now the enemy and us are in a fierce melee. Countless ninjas waved their weapons, fighting each other, blood splattered, and the scene was extremely tragic. In this chaotic battle, the rock ninja was obviously at a disadvantage and the situation was precarious. Onoki was anxious, and he knew that if he could not turn the situation around in time, the consequences would be disastrous. But now that the 4 tails and the 5 tails have been sealed, Akamichi Yusuke, who has absolute strength, has freed his hands. If he continues to fight like this, the rock ninja will really end in his hands. After thinking for a while, Onoki said loudly, "All rock ninjas retreat. If I can't go back, Huang-tu will serve as the 4th generation Tsuchikage." His voice spread throughout the battlefield, causing Huang-tu, Huoguang and other rock ninjas who were fighting Orochimaru to change their faces and shouted to Onoki. "Lord Tsuchikage, please lead your men to retreat. I will stop these Konoha ninjas." "Dad, you go first." Orochimaru on the opposite side smiled grimly, and that smile seemed to come from the 9 nether hell, chilling to the bone and making people shudder. The corners of his mouth slightly raised, revealing an undisguised insidiousness and cruelty, and his eyes flashed with a cold and ruthless light, as if a devil had descended into the world. He said in a tone full of sarcasm and contempt, "What? You want to escape now? Ha 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 ha, it's too late." His voice exploded in the air like thunder, with pure murderous intent that was not concealed, as if to devour everything around him. Every word was like a sharp dagger, piercing the opponent's heart, making people feel endless fear and despair. "Hear my order, Konoha ninjas, chase them with all your might, don't let any of them go." Orochimaru gave the order, and the Konoha ninjas rushed towards the rock ninjas like a tide. Onoki led the remaining rock ninjas to fight and retreat, but they found that their retreat had been cut off. Under the attack from both sides, the rock ninjas were in a desperate situation. At this time, Onoki's heart was filled with a strong sense of grief and indignation. He looked at his exhausted companions around him, and secretly made up his mind that even if he died in battle, he would protect the dignity of the rock ninjas. He took a deep breath, his eyes were firm, he formed seals with both hands, and in an instant, a white ball of light appeared in the group of Konoha ninjas. This is dust release. Separation limit technique. Orochimaru's face changed slightly when he saw this. He realized that this was Onoki's desperate attack and understood that he wanted to use the same trick again. Let Yusuke and him be cautious and fight for a chance to escape. When the rock ninjas saw this scene, the fire of hope ignited in their hearts. They leaned together tightly, ready to meet the attack of the Konoha ninja. However, a red light appeared in front of Onoki. The sharp-eyed Orochimaru and others discovered that the red light was Yusuke Akamichi. At this time, a pair of red wings appeared behind Yusuke, flapping slowly. Bang! A powerful fist smashed into Onoki's old and resolute face like a meteorite. In an instant, an extremely powerful impact force broke out, as if to tear the entire space apart. The power of this punch was so amazing that Onoki couldn't resist it at all, and his body flew backwards like a kite with a broken string. The dust escape that he was about to perform was also interrupted abruptly, and blood spurted out of his mouth, with astonishment and pain in his eyes. As Onoki flew backwards, the surrounding dust flew up, forming a spectacular khaki whirlwind. However, this whirlwind did not last too long, and soon dissipated in the air, leaving only a mess and Onoki lying on the ground struggling to get up. Lord Tsuchikage! The rock ninjas exclaimed. Seeing the red wings behind Yusuke, Orochimaru laughed. By giving fire release the power to create form in the void of yin release to create a move similar to Susanoo, it seems that Yusuke's understanding of yin-yang release has increased again. Onoki endured the serious injuries on his body and tried his best to make his body fly. With an angry face, he shouted loudly, "All rock ninjas, listen up, retreat immediately. This is the order issued by the Tsuchikage." Yes, Huang-Tu and the others gritted their teeth, tears flashing in their eyes, and they roared at the top of their voices to respond to Onoki. Then, they turned around without hesitation, took a step, and ran towards the direction of the land of earth like a gust of wind. Huang-Tu, I'll leave the Iwagakure village to you. Huogong, Oishi and other senior ninjas stared at Huang-Tu closely, their eyes full of perseverance and determination. After whispering the instructions, they also resolutely chose to stay like Onoki, because they knew in their hearts that they could not withstand the attacks of Yusuke and Orochimaru by relying solely on Onoki's strength. Huang-Tu remained silent, but his footsteps suddenly stopped, as if he was dragged by something. However, after only a pause, he suddenly quickened his pace, as if he wanted to escape from some unbearable pain. At the same time, tears flowed from the corners of his eyes like a dam bursting, slid down his cheeks, and wet the ground under his feet drop by drop. Yusuke did not stop him. Without Onoki, the four-tailed fox and the five-tailed fox, the land of earth would become a toothless tiger that could not stir up much trouble. What he had to do now was to keep Onoki on this battlefield forever. Onoki's figure flashed, and he leapt into the air as lightly as a bird. He stood on a high place, his eyes firm and resolute, staring closely at Yusuke not far ahead. At this moment, Onoki knew that there was no way to retreat today. Facing the powerful enemy and the dangerous situation in front of him, he had no fear or intention to retreat. But Yusuke's previous punch was too heavy, which made him reach the end of his strength and had little fighting ability. He himself did not know how long he could delay Yusuke. And this is the reason why Huogong and other senior ninjas stayed. At this time, they had gathered beside Onoki, desperately squeezing the limits of their bodies and accumulating chakra. Seeing this, Shangji raised his lips slightly, revealing a disdainful smile. The red wings behind him flapped, and he turned into a stream of red light and disappeared. The next second, he appeared in front of Huogong and others. "Just a few of you can't stop me." As soon as the words fell, a mysterious and powerful force suddenly emerged from the palm of Yusuke's hand, and then a long sword with a dark golden light flashing all over it appeared in his hand out of thin air. This sword exudes a palpitating breath, as if it itself is a divine weapon with endless power. However, Huogong and others didn't even have time to react before they were cut in half by several extremely sharp sword lights. In an instant, blood splattered, heads rolled down, and the scene was horrible. Those bodies that lost their heads fell straight down, and blood spurted out from their necks like springs, forming scarlet and dazzling blood columns, as if to dye the whole world red. Onoki's eyes were bloodshot, and he roared angrily, "Akamichi Yusuke! I'm going to kill you. Huogong, Oishi, Sumashi and other Jonin were all trained by him personally. It took a lot of time and resources. It can be said that each of them is his apprentice, and the relationship is beyond words. Now that they were all killed by Yusuke's sword, how could he not feel angry? Yusuke held the long sword and looked at Onoki, with a hint of teasing in his eyes. Little old man, you can do that. Onoki roared, ignoring his injuries, and used his full strength to perform the dust release, limit separation technique, trying to stop Yusuke's advance. However, Yusuke flapped his wings and avoided the attack. He swung his sword with his backhand, and a huge sword energy whizzed out, directly knocking Onoki out. Onoki fell heavily to the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. He struggled to get up, but his body was no longer under his control. It's over, Onoki. Yusuke walked towards Onoki step by step, the long sword in his hand flashing with cold light, and with one swing of the sword, he cut Onoki's neck and ended his life. After doing all this, Yusuke turned his head to look at the Konoha ninjas behind him. A smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. He raised the long sword in his hand, and shouted loudly, "We won." The Konoha ninjas cheered excitedly when they saw Yusuke kill Onoki. Victory! That's great, Lord Yusuke, awesome. Hearing the words such as, awesome, and, wow, mixed in the cheers, Yusuke's forehead was full of black lines. These people must have been with him for a long time and learned it from him. In order to ease the embarrassment, Yusuke came in front of Laozi and Han and checked the condition of the two. Han's condition was slightly better. After all, he actively entered the tailed beast transformation before he was seriously injured. The damage caused by Yusuke to the five-tailed king did not affect him too much. But Laozi's condition was very bad. He was already seriously injured before entering the tailed beast transformation. The four-tail was even more in a dying state because of Yusuke's targeting. Under the double influence, he is now not far from death. But Yusuke didn't care about this. At most, he would pull out the four-tail and find a jar to stuff it in. Come on, take these two people with us and let's go back to Konoha. Hearing what Yusuke said, the sealing squad immediately stepped forward, tied up the two men tightly with chains, and took them to the mountain nearby. Other ninjas responded one after another, and followed Yusuke towards the direction of Konoha village. Along the way, they saw many villages destroyed by war and injured civilians. Yusuke didn't have the slightest fluctuation in his heart. What did these have to do with him? It was enough for him to protect the people he cared about. He quickened his pace and led the team to quickly leave the ruins. On the way back to Konoha, Yusuke was thinking about the next plan. There will be no waves in the Iwagakure village in a short time, but now the feud has been formed, and Yusuke has killed Onoki. He will definitely be the #1 enemy of the Iwagakure village in the future. There is also the Root. Although Danzo is dead, there are still many brainwashed and loyal Root ninjas. Many people have suspected that Danzo's death is related to him. During this period, there are many more Root ninjas around him. Finally, there is Sarutobi Hiruzen. With the status of Danzo in his heart, it is impossible for him to remain indifferent. We must be prepared in advance. Yusuke thought it was better to keep a low profile for a while, so as not to let Sarutobi Hiruzen catch any evidence of him. At the same time, he should secretly accumulate strength, and when he gets the chance, he will kill Sarutobi Hiruzen and the remaining Konoha F4 with lightning speed. Soon the group returned to Konoha, handed the two Chiriki over to the Anbu, and Yusuke went to the office with Orochimaru to report. Teacher, this is the specific situation. Orochimaru told Sarutobi Hiruzen what happened on the battlefield in detail. Hearing this, there was no joy on Sarutobi Hiruzen's face. Instead, he stared at Yusuke and said, I have fully understood the situation. You two have worked hard during this period. Yusuke smiled and said, it's not hard. It's what we should do for Konoha. Sarutobi Hiruzen, you two should have a good rest later. The rest will be handled by me and the two consultants. Neither Yusuke nor Orochimaru was surprised at this result. They defeated the invasions of the Wind and Earth countries one after another. Now the two of them are at the peak of their careers and prestige in Konoha, which has made Sarutobi Hiruzen a little restless. So it is the best choice to let Yusuke and Orochimaru no longer participate in the next war. Yusuke and Orochimaru looked at each other and said in unison, then I'll trouble the teacher, Hokage. Then they left the Hokage building. Orochimaru whispered, "It seems we have to be more careful." "Well, let's see first." A trace of vigilance flashed in Yusuke's eyes. Not long after Yusuke entered the house, he heard unexpected news. The ninjas such as Hyuga Hazashi who withdrew from the Land of Earth have been divided into two groups. They will go to the Land of Lightning and the Land of Water to provide support respectively. Without the pressure from the Wind and Earth countries, they would not have enough strength to deal with the Thunder and Water countries, so naturally they would not need me and the teacher. But it's good this way, I can practice in Konoha with peace of mind. Yusuke thought, in this case, he must practice harder and strengthen his strength. He decided to devote himself to training, and the main focus is still the training of the human body system and yin-yang escape. In the following days, except for eating and sleeping, Yusuke spent the rest of his time practicing and studying the black stick he snatched from Madara. At the same time, Yusuke also paid attention to the dynamics of the battlefield ahead. He learned that the ninjas of Konoha village performed well in the battles of various countries, especially after reinforcements. Namikaze Minato, Uchiha Shisui, Kakashi and others were able to fight freely, especially the name of Golden Flash resounded throughout the ninja world. On the other side, Orochimaru was also studying the chakra of the tailed beasts in the laboratory. In several huge petri dishes, the tails of the 1, 4 and 5 tails were floating inside, and several electronic pipes were connected to them, with chakra flowing inside. Orochimaru looked at the data on the computer in fascination, while using a pen to record the changes in chakra. Obsessed with the chakra of the tailed beasts inside, Orochimaru murmured, "I now increasingly suspect that you are not natural life, but life created by someone using yin-yang escape combined with natural phenomena. Wind, fire, water, melting, boiling, acid, flight, flesh and yin-yang, just correspond to the power of the 9-tailed beasts." This also indirectly confirms the feasibility of Shangji's theory, but in order to completely perfect this theory, I still need the secret techniques of the Kazuki clan. With this indirect understanding, this theory should be complete. The Kazuki clan is not a blood-stained family, but the water transformation technique passed down from generation to generation makes them stronger than ordinary blood-stained families. The second generation of Mizukage has brought this family to a new height. The water transformation technique is a ninjutsu that can liquefy the flesh at will, making physical attacks invalid. In addition to being able to easily avoid attacks in close combat, it can also sneak into buildings and attack in a liquefied state, etc. Which has great flexibility. This ninjutsu is very similar to Shangji's theory, except that one liquefies the flesh and the other turns the flesh into energy. It seems that I have to go to the Land of Water myself. Might Guy is there too, so I can help Shangji get the 8 gates of ninjutsu. Orochimaru has always been vigorous and resolute, and he never drags his feet. Once the idea came to his mind, he immediately put it into practice. He walked quickly to the place where the petri dish was placed next to him, reached out and took out a clone that was exactly the same as himself. Then, he quickly formed the seal of the shadow clone with both hands, and with a flash of light, the originally lifeless clone suddenly woke up. This is not an ordinary shadow clone technique, but a profound ninjutsu created by Orochimaru combining his own unique abilities. By using shadow clones and cloning technology, he successfully created a physical clone with a real body and consciousness. This clone not only looks exactly the same as Orochimaru, but can also exert about 90% of its original strength. It can be said to be an extremely powerful and rare ninjutsu. Even with such an outstanding ninja talent as Orochimaru, he can only create such a powerful clone at present. Looking at the lifelike clone in front of him, Orochimaru smiled with satisfaction, and whispered to it, "In the next period of time, it will depend on you to attract the teacher's attention." After hearing this, the clone nodded slightly, indicating that it understood the mission it was tasked with. Then, it smiled and waved goodbye to Orochimaru, turned around and walked straight to the equipment where various experimental instruments were placed, concentrating on the study of the tailed beast chakra, as if forgetting everything around it. Seeing this, Orochimaru raised the corners of his mouth slightly, revealing an imperceptible smile. Suddenly, a crack suddenly appeared in the ground, and a huge python jumped out of it, opening its bloody mouth and swallowing Orochimaru in one bite. In the blink of an eye, the python took Orochimaru into the ground and disappeared without a trace. A few days later, Orochimaru came to the battlefield of the water country. He concealed his breath and sneaked in quietly, neither alarming Konoha nor disturbing Kurigakure, but concentrating on searching for the ninjas of the Might Dai and Kurigakure clans. Boom! Suddenly, there was a thunderous sound that shook the earth, as if the whole earth was shaking. Then, an indescribable powerful shock wave roared out from the depths of the distant forest like a ferocious beast, and raged in all directions at an alarming speed. Orochimaru suddenly opened his eyes, with astonishment and vigilance flashing in his eyes. He secretly exclaimed in his heart, "Such a strong breath, what on earth is that thing?" This feeling was both strange and familiar to him, as if a mysterious power from ancient times was awakening. He concentrated on feeling the fluctuations of that powerful force, trying to catch some clues from it. However, this power was too vast and deep, like a bottomless abyss, making it difficult for him to peek into its full picture. It was like a giant volcano about to erupt, with endless energy and devastating power inside. It was also like a lightning that cut through the sky, with a heart-pounding pressure and shocking power. Faced with such a terrifying power, Orochimaru couldn't help but feel timid. But at the same time, his deep curiosity about unknown things, his desire to explore was completely aroused. So, driven by fear and curiosity, Orochimaru decided to personally explore the source of this mysterious power. He took a deep breath, calmed himself, and then disappeared in a flash, rushing towards the depths of the forest. 8 Gates of Ninjutsu. In the forest, after Might Dai let his son Kai and his classmates escape, he opened all 8 gates without any hesitation. Suddenly, he felt the blood burning in his body. The powerful force of the 8 gates of ninjutsu made his body emit a dazzling red light. Even his hair and eyebrows turned red. The whole person looked like a dying animal. He glared at the 7 blades in front of him, but the severe pain in his body made him realize that he could not hold on for long and he had to fight quickly. The 7 blades felt Might Dai's momentum and began to retreat involuntarily. But they were numerous and still had an overwhelming advantage. At this moment, Orochimaru arrived. He saw the state of Might Dai opening the 8 gates of ninjutsu and was secretly surprised in his heart. This is the state of the 8 gates fully opened that Yuji mentioned. This power is actually much stronger than mine, even to the level of Yuji. What a terrifying power, Orochimaru muttered to himself. After opening the 8 gates, Might Dai, like a maple leaf about to wither, suddenly punched in the direction where the blades 7 were most concentrated. This punch was filled with endless power and determination, as if to shatter the entire world. However, surprisingly, this punch did not hit the enemy directly, but hit the air in front. At this moment, Might Dai shouted, "Day Tiger!" With his shout, an indescribable force instantly erupted. There was only a loud bang that shook the earth. Boom! The air around them seemed to be ignited and exploded violently. In this thrilling scene, an extremely huge white tiger appeared out of thin air. This white tiger was actually made entirely of shock waves. Its body was 100 meters long, majestic and shocking. It rushed forward with its fangs and claws bared. Wherever it passed, whether it was hard rocks or sharp swords, they were all vulnerable and turned into powder. This white tiger was like a violent whirlwind, ruthlessly destroying all obstacles in front of it. The 7-bladed men were caught off guard by this sudden attack. They tried desperately to resist, but the power of the white tiger was too strong. How could they contend with it? In a blink of an eye, the white tiger rushed in front of the 7 blades, it jumped high, and then pounced on the enemy. A scream rang out, and the 7 blades were torn into pieces by the white tiger, and blood splattered everywhere. Only Biwa Juzo, Zigwashan Pufferfish Ghost, and Hei Chue Ya in the distance were lucky enough to be out of the range of the air bomb. However, although they were only lightly brushed by the powerful air bomb of the Day Tiger, the 3 of them also suffered extremely serious injuries. Facing such a powerful punch from Might Dai, the 3 of them were filled with fear. Full of unspeakable fear. At this moment, how dare they have the slightest thought of resistance? They only cared about dragging their wounded bodies, grabbing the ninja swords and fleeing in different directions. Biwa Juzu's face was as pale as paper, with beads of sweat rolling down his forehead. Zigwashan Puffer Ghost's eyes were wide open, his face full of disbelief, and Hei Chue Ya's lips were trembling, his legs were so weak that he could hardly stand. But the instinct to survive drove them to desperately flee from this terrible battlefield. Their figures gradually moved away and soon disappeared into the dense woods. This battle the fight left them with unforgettable memories, and also made them deeply realize the terrifying power of Might Dai. Perhaps, for a long time in the future, they will be frightened by this thrilling scene. Seeing this, Might Dai secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Throwing that punch was already his limit. He couldn't even move his body now, and could feel his vitality constantly draining away. However, he did not regret it, because he protected his village and even saved his son. He took a deep breath, then slowly closed his eyes, and his body fell softly. What an amazing blow. No wonder Yusuke said that you have amazing strength, even the Hokage is not your opponent. The embarrassed Orochimaru walked out from the woods nearby, looking at the fallen Might Dai with shock. Although Dai's blow just now was not directed at him directly, he was also affected. If it were not for his strong strength, he would probably have turned into ashes like the 4 dead members of the Blade 7. Dai, who had not yet died completely, slowly opened his eyes, looked at the familiar person in front of him, and said weakly, "Lord Orochimaru." A snake suddenly slipped out of Orochimaru's sleeve, twisting its body and spitting out a syringe filled with green liquid from its mouth. It slithered forward flexibly and finally stopped in front of Dai. Dai stared at the strange snake and the syringe in its mouth with wide eyes. A trace of fear surged in his heart, but more of curiosity about the unknown power. Before he could react, Orochimaru had controlled the snake to pierce the syringe straight into Dai's chest. In an instant, the green liquid flowed into Dai's body like a trickle. This mysterious green liquid seemed to have life and spread rapidly, and wherever it went, it was they all bring a sense of warmth. Dai clearly felt a warm current flowing from his chest to his limbs. His body, which was almost exhausted and numb due to excessive use of the 8 gates, gradually regained consciousness. The indescribable comfort made Dai groan. He never thought that he would be so eager for this feeling, as if he had been reborn. As time passed, the green liquid completely merged into Dai's body. He took a deep breath, feeling the power surging in his body, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Although it was only a little bit, he didn't seem to have to die. Although this thing can save your life, it can only do so much. The side effects of your forbidden technique are too great. It almost burned your life essence. Your body may be worse than that of an ordinary person in the future. Hearing Orochimaru's voice, Dai did not feel sad. Instead, he leaned against a tree nearby and smiled. "It's okay, Lord Orochimaru. I'm already very happy to be alive. At least I can see Kai grow up, get married and have children." Really, Orochimaru smiled, and his mind suddenly recalled his parents. He looked at Dai with a much gentler look. "Oh, Lord Orochimaru, shouldn't you be in Konoha? Why are you here at the water country battlefield?" Dai was a little confused. According to the ninjas coming to support Konoha, Orochimaru and Yusuke Akamichi should still be resting in Konoha. Why are they here? "Actually, I came to see you." Orochimaru did not hide it, which surprised Dai. "Find me?" "Yes." Orochimaru nodded and stated his purpose. "I came to you to learn the 8 gates ninjutsu. I need the theory of this forbidden technique to improve my ninjutsu." "I see." Dai suddenly realized, and quickly explained the theory of the 8 gates to Orochimaru in detail. He knew very well that the 8 gates, armor is just a great help to Orochimaru, not something that is of vital importance. Therefore, telling this secret to Orochimaru did not violate his own principles. In fact, the theory of the 8 gates of the ninjutsu is relatively easy to understand. The real difficulty lies in how to accurately find the location of the 8 gates in the body and how to open them correctly. It didn't take long for Dai to finish explaining this part of the theoretical knowledge and specific operating essentials. "Open the door. The rest gate is open. The gate of life is open." Orochimaru narrowed his eyes slightly, concentrating on following the method taught by Dai, and in a flash he successfully opened the first 3 gates. In an instant, the originally stable and gentle chakra in his body suddenly became extremely violent and fierce, but at the same time, the speed of the chakra flowing in the meridians suddenly increased by dozens of times. Removing the limitations of the body allows one to exert 100%, or even 200% or 300% of one's strength. No wonder the full opening of the 8 gates can exert dozens of times the power of a Hokage. After only opening 3 gates, Orochimaru understood the principle of the 8 gates, but there was also a hint of disappointment in his eyes. He really didn't understand why Yusuke wanted to obtain this forbidden technique. Although the 8 gates are powerful, the chakra is extremely violent after it is opened, and it is almost impossible to control it. He can only let this chakra that exceeds the limit of the human body destroy his body. However, despite his doubts, he still memorized the 8 gates. "Dad, Dai, are you okay?" The voice of a Konoha ninja suddenly sounded in the distance. It was obviously the reinforcements that Kai and others had returned to find. "Don't expose my existence." After saying that, Orochimaru disappeared as a shadow. "I'm here," Dai shouted weakly in the direction where the voice came from. Soon, a man with a watermelon head and tearful face rushed over, lay down in front of Dai and cried, "I'm so glad that you're okay." After leaving Dai, Orochimaru quietly sneaked into the camp of the Hidden Mist village. He carefully shuttled between the trees, searching the surroundings with sharp eyes, thinking to himself, "This time I must find the ninja of the Kazuna clan." Not long after, a figure appeared in Orochimaru's vision. It was a mist-hidden ninja with white hair and pure golden pupils. Orochimaru's eyes instantly became excited, his mouth corners slightly raised, and he whispered softly, "Finally found it, this is the ninja of the Hazuka clan." At this moment, Hazuka Mangetsu was carrying a huge ninja sword on his back, walking towards the outside of the woods with firm steps. He longed to become one of the admired 7 ninja swordsmen by constantly honing his swordsmanship. However, Hazuka Mangetsu did not know that the 7 ninja swordsmen had been beaten into the 3 lucky treasures by Dai Yiquan. Even if he knew this fact, he might not feel the slightest sadness, on the contrary, he might be happy. After all, this means that he will have a greater chance to compete for the 7 swords and become their true owner. Orochimaru hid in the dark, observing Hazuka Mangetsu's every move. He was waiting for a suitable opportunity to capture this ninja of the Hazuka clan. At the moment when Mangetsu Hazuka walked out of the woods, Orochimaru launched a sneak attack. He quickly jumped out and stretched out his hand to grab Mangetsu Hazuka. However, Mangetsu Hazuka seemed to sense the approaching danger and immediately drew the ninja sword behind him. But the difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Mangetsu Hazuka didn't react at all. He felt a pain in his neck, and the next second his eyes went black and he lost consciousness. Orochimaru carried the unconscious Mangetsu Hazuka and quickly left the scene. After 2 days of traveling, they finally returned to Konoha's laboratory and put Mangetsu Hazuka down. "Finally got it." Orochimaru looked at Mangetsu with a satisfied smile. He took out his tools and began to experiment on Mangetsu, inserting the chakra tube into his body. At the same time, he used Yin Dan to send his consciousness into Mangetsu's mind, searching for information about the water transformation technique. Although Orochimaru did not have the secret technique of the Yamanaka clan, his Yin Dan level allowed him to easily do the same thing. Not long after, Orochimaru got the information he wanted. "I see," Orochimaru muttered to himself, "the Kazuna clan's water transformation technique is interesting." With the water transformation technique and the existence of the Manzuki, Orochimaru's 3-fold reverse birth went very smoothly. He soon had his own ideas and had simply perfected the existence of the 2nd level. But Yusuke encountered setbacks. After Orochimaru handed him the 8 gates of Dunjia, he began to study the acupoints and meridians based on the theory of the 8 gates of Dunjia. The initial research was very smooth, and Yusuke really figured out something. That is, the meridians themselves are unobstructed, and there are no problems with the acupoints themselves. In the past, the so-called opening of the meridians by Taoism and Chinese medicine was to connect the acupoints one by one, using the meridians as a medium to form various systems, thereby affecting the internal system of the body, making people free from disease and disaster, and exerting power far beyond the limit. However, the problem facing Yusuke at this moment is how to connect the meridians. The method of connecting the acupoints of the 8 gates of Dunjia is too rough and simple. It can be said that it is to use external force to forcibly break through the acupoints, and then under the action of the body's self-protection mechanism, the opened acupoints will automatically close again. Although this method can burst out powerful power in a short period of time, the damage caused to the body should not be underestimated. There is no doubt that opening and closing these 8 acupoints for a long time can gradually connect these acupoints. And this is why Kai was able to open the Jingmen directly. Since the previous 7 acupoints are already connected to each other unobstructed, he can transfer power to the Jingmen in an instant and achieve such an amazing breakthrough. However, for Shangsuk, this method is not a good strategy. What he pursues is a steady method by opening the acupoints smoothly, so that they always remain unobstructed. Compared with the rough method of breaking the acupoints such as the 8 gates, Shangsuk prefers a gentle and lasting method. If it were not for the strong recovery ability of chakra and the human body itself, those acupoints that were forcibly broken would probably have been useless long ago. Because of this, opening the 8 gates will have extremely high requirements for physical fitness. After all, only people with a strong physique can withstand this huge pressure and benefit greatly from it. But fortunately, the 8 gates also provided Shangsuk with ideas and methods. But after many experiments, he still failed. He even asked Orochimaru for some test subjects and clones, but in the end, he still felt that he was just one step away from finding the acupoint. It seems that I must feel the state of the acupoints being opened to verify my guess. Open the door. Open the 8 gates. The 2 gates opened instantly, and Yusuke's chakra began to be consumed rapidly, running through the meridians at an unimaginable speed, making Yusuke feel a trace of pain for the first time in a long time. He closed his eyes silently, and completely immersed his mind into his body, feeling the state of the 2 acupoints in his brain, concentrating his energy, trying to guide the flow of chakra, and looking for that tiny breakthrough. He slowly adjusted his breathing, calmed his heart, and maintained this state. Compared with people like Might Dai, Kai, and Xiao Li, Yusuke's chakra is like the Yangtze River. After opening the 8 gates, the burden on the body is dozens of times theirs, and of course the endurance is dozens of times theirs. So Yusuke can feel the mystery after the 8 gates are opened by maintaining this state for a long time. As time passed, fine beads of sweat oozed from Yusuke's forehead, and his face turned pale. He clenched his teeth and persisted. Finally, Yusuke couldn't bear it anymore and closed the 2 doors. He gasped for breath, his face full of fatigue, but the smile in his eyes could not be hidden. The long-term maintenance has given me a sense of something. I believe that if I try a few more times, I will be able to create a way to open the acupoints. After a short rest, Yusuke began to try again. With repeated efforts, his perception of the acupoints in his body became clearer and clearer, and he gradually understood the way to open the acupoints. After another opening of the 8 gates, he finally found the tiny breakthrough. With a thought, the originally violent chakra instantly became extremely gentle, flowing like mercury. The originally broken acupoints began to repair under the protection of the body, but they were not completely repaired, leaving a tiny channel for the chakra to flow in the acupoints. Success. The next step is to slowly expand these 2 acupoint channels and completely open up the acupoints. Shangsuk showed excitement. Although this method of opening up the meridians did not increase strength as much as the 8 gates, it might only be 1%, but it was more stable. Moreover, there were at least 720 acupoints in the human body. He dared not imagine how much power he could gain after all of them were opened up. Shangsuk was immersed in joy. He knew that this was just the beginning. The road ahead was still long, and there were countless challenges waiting for him. He decided to take a good rest first to recover his physical strength and spirit. During the rest, he also thought about how to better expand the acupoint channels. The 8 acupoints of the 8 gates of Dunjia are not suitable for me. The root of my practice is still in the Qi seal in the 4 acupoints of Dantian, so the beginning of opening up the meridians and acupoints should be from Dantian. It just so happens that the expansion of the Qi seal has been slower and slower in the past 2 years, and opening up the 4 orifices of the Dantian should bring me different surprises. In the past 2 years, the improvement of the fairy chakra in the Qi seal of Yusuke is basically in quality, not quantity. The quantity has increased very little. This is the limitation of the Qi seal. It should be said that the attainment of the sealing technique is not enough. With the study of the sealing technique, Yusuke gradually realized the essence of the sealing technique. The essence of the sealing technique is yin and yang escape, but it is different from the traditional yin and yang escape. It emphasizes sealing the body and spirit, so the potential of the sealing technique can be said to be the greatest in the entire ninja world. It is for this reason that Yusuke understands why the ninja world cannot accommodate the Uzumaki clan. If it is allowed to develop like this, it is estimated that the entire ninja world will not be the opponent of the Uzumaki clan. As time went by, Yusuke's efforts gradually paid off. The opening of the 4 orifices of Dantian was very smooth. He could clearly feel that the chakra was constantly increasing, and the speed of progress was able to catch up with the time when he just obtained the seal of Chi-Si as a child. However, he was not satisfied with this. He knew that only by continuous exploration and breakthroughs could one truly become a strong man. This training lasted for 2 years. During this period, Yusuke and Orochimaru did not receive any tasks and were in a state of no one cared about them. However, this was also something the two were happy to see, as they could seize the time to practice. In 2 years, Yusuke had already perfectly built the motor system and respiratory system. The training method was named Immortal Golden Body and 9 breaths to subdue chi, but the progress of the endocrine system was very slow. Therefore, Shangsuke began to focus on the 2 areas of the circulatory system and the nervous system. The circulatory system can be roughly divided into 2 major parts, the cardiac circulation and the lymphatic circulation, and the lymphatic system is like a densely packed large net, spreading to every corner of the body, and it is relatively difficult to deal with. After careful consideration, Shangsuke decided to start with the more significant cardiac circulation. For the cardiac circulation, the key is to strengthen the heart and blood vessels. With the valuable experience accumulated from the previous practice of the 6 treasury immortal thief, the immortal golden body, and the 9 breaths, Shangsuke completed the strengthening of the heart and blood vessels with ease. Not only that, during this period, he was able to take out free time to strengthen and improve the remaining 5 organs one by one. However, facing the remaining lymphatic system, nervous system, and endocrine system, Shangsuke knew that these parts could not be achieved overnight, and they must rely on long-term polishing and precipitation to achieve success. This is undoubtedly a protracted battle, but he did not feel discouraged or retreat at all because he understood that only after such a tempering could he truly move to a higher peak. Deep in the mansion of the Akamichi clan, Yusuke sat quietly in his bedroom. He closed his eyes tightly, as if he was isolated from the whole world. Suddenly, he exhaled deeply, and this breath swept out like a gust of wind. The turbid air quickly condensed into a white arrow in the air, and flew forward at an astonishing speed. It was like a shining meteor, passing through the void, flying straight for nearly 100 meters before gradually dissipating. This scene made people marvel. Such a powerful breath and strength are really extraordinary. Just from this simple action, it can be seen that Yusuke's physical fitness has reached the pinnacle. There is endless power in his body, as if he can burst out with earth-shaking power at any time. Brother Minato is coming back too. I didn't expect that without the participation of the Land of Earth, Obito was still taken away by Madara. After 2 years, the war was over. Naturally, Konoha won the victory with great difficulty. Under the leadership of Namikaze Minato and Uchiha Fugaku, they successfully repelled the Land of Lightning and the Land of Water. However, under the deliberate guidance of Sarutobi Hiruzen, Uchiha Fugaku did not have much reputation. He mainly promoted Namikaze Minato and Shunshin Shisui, making the 2 heroes of Konoha. When these news reached Yusuke's ears, he just laughed it off and didn't care. In this world where strength is respected, only strength is the foundation, and everything else is false. After leaving the Akamichi clan's land, Yusuke walked into the forest of death and soon came to Orochimaru's laboratory. Nowadays, Orochimaru no longer cares about Konoha's affairs and concentrates on his own research. The second level of the 3 levels of reverse life has been completely perfected, and the third level has also been developed under the comparison of the tailed beast chakra. Entering the laboratory, not only Orochimaru was there, but also 2 children, a boy and a girl, about 12 years old. Seeing the 2, Yusuke greeted them with a smile. Red Bean, Kabuto, you 2 came quite early. Kabuto looked at Yusuke tenderly and nodded, then turned around and continued to help Orochimaru with the experiment. The bored Red Bean saw Yusuke coming, and rushed up in 2 steps instead of 3, hugged Yusuke, and called affectionately, "Brother Yusuke, did you bring me glutinous rice balls and red bean paste?" Yusuke thought of the future body shape of Red Bean, and rolled his eyes, gave Red Bean a bang on the head, and said unhappily, "Eat. You only know how to eat." Be careful or you will become a big fat man in the future. Quote, although he said so, Yusuke still handed the glutinous rice balls that had been prepared in the sealing wristband to Red Bean. Red Bean happily took the glutinous rice balls, but still retorted stubbornly, this girl is naturally beautiful, no matter how much I eat, I won't get fat. Yusuke smiled, raised his foot to Orochimaru, and said with a smile, Teacher, Jiraiya and Minato will probably be back soon. Who do you think will be the Hokage this time? Orochimaru put down the scalpel in his hand, wiped his hands with the towel beside him, and smiled, anyway, it's impossible for the two of us. Ever since you borrowed Uchiha Madara's hand to kill Danzo last time, Sarutobi teacher has been secretly investigating the two of us. In addition, you have killed many former root ninjas in the past 2 years. The two of us are completely out of the position. Yusuke nodded. In the past 2 years, many of Danzo's brainwashed diehards wanted to know the cause of Danzo's death from him, but they were all killed by him without mercy. And these people were all recruited by Sarutobi Hiruzen. It can be said that they severely slapped the face of our Hokage, and it is normal to be targeted. Thinking of Minato's gentle smile, Yusuke asked again, then teacher, do you think Minato brother has a chance? Orochimaru shook his head, no possibility. You have to know that Minato is closer to you than he, the Hokage. As long as my teacher is afraid of you for one day, he will never let Minato inherit the position of Hokage. So I think it is most likely that it will be that guy Jiraiya. But with Jiraiya's personality, he definitely doesn't want to be bound by that position, and the same goes for Tsunade. In the end, I guess the teacher will choose to stay in that position until his confidant takes over from him. After hearing Orochimaru's analysis, Yusuke also felt that it made sense, and with a hint of disdain on his lips, he sneered, he is getting older and older, so he can only resort to such tricks. But we can't be careless. After all, this old guy was called a ninja hero when he was young, and he sat on the position of Hokage for many years. The level of his methods is not something we can match. Quote, indeed, we can't underestimate that old guy. A sly look flashed in Orochimaru's eyes, but we don't have to worry too much. With our strength, he didn't dare to act before he was absolutely sure, and he didn't even have the courage to force us to become rebels. After all, Konoha can't stand it now. Yusuke nodded slightly to show his agreement. He knew that in this cruel world, strength is the hard truth. The conversation between the two did not avoid Red Bean and Kabuto. The two had long known some of Yusuke and Orochimaru's plans, but Kabuto tacitly didn't say much to help his teacher and senior brother keep it secret. After chatting with Orochimaru for a while, Yusuke left the laboratory and walked towards the Senju clan, waiting for the return of Minato Habune. The sun was shining, the breeze was blowing, and the Senju clan was peaceful and tranquil. Kushina was humming a cheerful song and busy preparing delicious food. Her face was filled with a happy smile, as if the whole world had become beautiful because of the upcoming reunion. After years of hard work and training, the future Hokage's wife finally made some progress in her long-term cooking practice. Although the food she made was still edible, the taste needed to be improved. However, this was enough to make Kushina happy and satisfied. When Yusuke came to the Senju clan's land, he was as natural as returning to his own home, and he pushed open the door and walked into the house without hesitation. As soon as he heard the noise coming from the kitchen, he couldn't help but smiled and joked, "Sister, isn't it just that Minato is coming back? Why are you so excited?" Kushina rolled her eyes at Yusuke, and didn't punch him like she usually did. Instead, she responded with a somewhat dissatisfied tone, "Minato has been fighting on the distant battlefield of the Land of Lightning for the past 3 years. Just think about it, how long have I not seen him?" After that, Kushina sighed softly, and her eyes revealed her deep longing for her lover. Seeing this, Yusuke also realized that what he had said just now was a bit inappropriate, so he smiled awkwardly, and hurried to Kushina's side to help, hoping to make the meal more delicious. Kushina brought the last dish to the table and clapped her hands with satisfaction. At this time, a familiar sound of footsteps came from outside the door, and a bright smile immediately broke out on her face. "I'm back." Minato stepped into the room, his eyes gently falling on Kushina. "Minato." Seeing the person coming, Kushina exclaimed, and the next second she crossed a distance of dozens of meters and hung on Minato, kissing and hugging him excitedly. "The dog food is full." Yusuke's face was full of black lines, and he lowered his head silently, preparing the food to be eaten later. Soon, the table was full of food. Ordinary people couldn't finish it even if there were dozens of people, but the three of them had practiced well and had amazing appetites, especially Yusuke, who was like a bottomless pit. This amount of food was probably not enough. Most of this batch of food was made by Kushina, and a small part was prepared by Yusuke just now. The three sat down, they ate and talked at the dining table, but they tacitly did not talk about the battlefield, but just opened their hearts to each other. However, in the process, Yusuke ate wave after wave of dog food. After eating and drinking, Kushina and Minato walked hand in hand in the yard, enjoying the rare leisure time. Yusuke stayed in the house to clean up the mess. 2 hours later, the novelty of Minato and Kushina's reunion was over, and the two returned to the house to talk to Yusuke. Seeing the two come in, Yusuke teased, "Hey, the two of you are done with being annoying, and finally you are willing to talk to me." Hearing this, Kushina's pretty face turned red, her body twisted, and she felt embarrassed. Minato on the side was much thicker-skinned, and still had a gentle smile on his face. He sat in front of Yusuke and said, "Okay, Yusuke. Don't tease Kushina. Let's talk about our next plan." So the three of them began to talk about the current battlefield situation. After Minato Namikaze realized Sarutobi Hiruzen's mistake, he became more sober. When he was on the battlefield in the Land of Lightning, he guessed many of the reasons for Sarutobi Hiruzen's orders. The most obvious one was to send the Uchiha clan to deal with the ninjas of the Land of Water. As long as a ninja in the entire ninja world is aware that water escape restrains fire escape, sending a fire escape family to deal with water escape ninjas is a fool's behavior. Moreover, Konoha was facing the 4 major ninja villages at the same time, and the combat effectiveness of the village was obviously insufficient. In this state, Sarutobi Hiruzen still sent the Uchiha clan to deal with the Land of Water, and that thought was written on his face. Because of these reasons, Minato Namikaze is now more and more disgusted with Sarutobi Hiruzen, and feels that such a person is not worthy of sitting in the position of Hokage. After Yusuke told Minato Namikaze about Orochimaru's analysis and some of his original ideas, the latter fell into deep thought. Minato Namikaze said with a worried look on his face, "Yusuke, your idea of winning over the Uchiha and Hyuga clans is good, but is this move too blatant? Sarutobi Hiruzen will definitely not agree." His tone showed no respect for the Hokage, and he even called Sarutobi Hiruzen by his name. "So what if he disagrees? With our strength, he can only watch me and can't do anything. If it weren't for his high prestige among the villagers, killing him directly would destabilize the village, and I would have killed him with one punch." Yusuke had a hint of disdain on his face, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent, which frightened Minato Namikaze and Kushina on the side, and they were amazed at Yusuke's strength. Kushina looked at Yusuke in surprise. "I didn't expect that in just 2 years, Yusuke's strength has become stronger." Yusuke's strength is now infinitely close to that of Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama at their peak, especially after completing the motor system, respiratory system and cardiovascular system. His physical strength is several times stronger than the two, and his recovery ability is comparable to that of Hashirama's sage body. It's just that his chakra amount and the nature of chakra changes are still far behind the two, so his strength is not as good as the two at their peak. Feeling Yusuke's strength, Minato's heart, which had been hanging in the air, relaxed, and said with a smile, "Since you already have an idea, then do it according to your idea. If you need anything, remember to come to me and Kushina, the two of us will definitely help you." Kushina nodded repeatedly. Yeah. Yusuke felt warm in his heart, and smiled, "If you need anything, we will definitely help you." After that, he took out 2 scrolls from his wristband, the improved, Sage Body, and the Reverse Life Triple, created by Orochimaru, and placed them in the hands of the 2 men. "Brother Minato, sister, this is the subsequent training method that my teacher and I have perfected. You two can practice it when you have time. It should help you improve your strength." The current Namikaze Minato has completed the training of the Sage mode using some of Yusuke's theories, and has accumulated a lot of Sage chakra in his body, which is much stronger than the same period in the original work. Although Kushina does not know Sage techniques, she has the 9-tailed fox, an oversized power bank, in her body, and her strength is still above that of Namikaze Minato. However, Yusuke can also see that the strength of the two has reached a bottleneck. If they want to increase their strength again, they can only let time settle, or Kushina can completely master the power of the nine-tailed fox. That's why Yusuke taught these two training methods to the two. Minato and Kushina glanced at the scroll briefly, stuffed it back, and said in unison, "Yusuke, we can't take this. I can see that this is the crystallization of your and Lord Orochimaru's wisdom. It must have taken a lot of time and energy. You should give it to your people." Yusuke stuffed the scroll into the arms of the two again. "I have already given it to my parents. As for the tribe members, I don't plan to give it to them for the time being. The three tribes of Ino, Deer and Cho are still very loyal to the Sarutobi tribe. I am worried that if I give them the training method, it will soon appear in Sarutobi Hiruzen's place. This is something I don't want to happen. So it's best to give the skills to you too, Minato brother." "But, brother Minato, actually I have selfish motives in giving you the skills. You also know that these skills are all my ideas, which I have explored like crossing a river by feeling the stones. Every step forward is full of difficulties. I also want you to help me with experiments and provide me with new ideas." Yusuke was right about this. As his strength grew, he found it difficult to innovate new skills. The method of practice is not just about having ideas, but also requires a lot of theoretical foundation and practice. The initial practice was okay, and the theoretical foundation required was not much. It was not enough to rely on Orochimaru's large number of experiments. Therefore, the more people who practice in the future, the better. Only in this way can we pool our wisdom and embark on the road of evolution together. Of course, Yusuke also kept a trick up his sleeve. The method of practicing the immortal body that he handed over was only to condense the immortal body, and did not create the perfect 8 systems. Even Orochimaru did not know the most important knowledge of the acupoints. "Okay, then we'll take it." The Minato couple understood Yusuke's good intentions and accepted the scroll. "In addition, there is one more thing." Yusuke looked at the two of them with a serious expression. "Regarding the 9 tails, I hope you can master its power as soon as possible." Kushina asked puzzledly. "Why do you say that?" Yusuke said solemnly. "Because Uchiha Madara, I always feel that he is planning something behind the scenes. You know, this senior has been secretly planning for decades, and no one knows what kind of earth-shattering event he is going to do. Yusuke has always been in awe of Madara, and is also preparing to deal with Madara's infinite moon reading plan in the future. Because of this variable, he is not at ease to leave the fate to the future Naruto and Sasuke. Not only Madara, but Black Zetsu is a greater threat. As an old monster who has lived for 1,000 years, even if his power is insufficient, his experience, knowledge, insight and wisdom are not comparable to Yusuke. What's more, there is the threat of the Otsutsuki clan, so the more powerful people in the future ninja world, the better. This is the only way to deal with future crises." A trace of worry flashed in Minato's eyes. "You mean, the enemy will be very powerful?" Yusuke nodded. "Yes, and the enemies in the future may be beyond our imagination. So we must be fully prepared." Minato took a deep breath. "I understand. Kushina, we will start to practice hard after we go back." Yusuke looked at the two of them, full of confidence. "But the first thing to do is to deal with Sarutobi Hiruzen, who is good at internal wars but not external wars." Thinking of this, Yusuke did not disturb Minato and Kushina's world of 2 people. Except for the Senju clan, he walked towards the Uchiha clan opposite. The current Uchiha clan has not moved away from the core area of Konoha as in the original work. Their land is just opposite the Senju clan. That is why Kushina and Makoto often visit each other and become best friends. Uchiha Fugaku was naturally very welcoming to Yusuke's arrival. As soon as he received the notification from his clan members, he hurried out to greet him. At the same time, Sarutobi Hiruzen also received the news that Yusuke was going to the Uchiha clan. His face suddenly became extremely ugly, and his eyes were filled with hatred and murderous intent. "You don't even want to hide. Are you going to turn against me completely?" Now he can be sure that it was Yusuke who killed Danzo. But now he has no way. Every time he thinks of seeing Yusuke and feeling the palpitation from him, he feels terrified. This situation only happened to Hashirama Senju back then. It's not that he has never thought about driving Yusuke and Orochimaru out of the village, but he is not Hashirama Senju back then. He has enough strength to deal with Uchiha Madara's revenge. Once Yusuke retaliates, no one in Konoha today will be his opponent. So this idea was shelved by him. The last method he thought of was to use the power of bonds and family affection to restrain Yusuke, and he did so, but since Danzo's death, he felt that this was not possible. This method doesn't work for Yusuke and Orochimaru, because they are both self-centered people who only care about themselves, their families and friends, and have no sense of belonging to the village. He believes that if there were no one in the village that they cared about, they would have left Konoha long ago and traveled around the ninja world. Since I can't deal with Yusuke Akamichi, can I deal with others? The Akamichi clan and the Uchiha clan always have ways to hurt them. Under the guidance of Uchiha Fugaku, Yusuke soon arrived at the courtyard where their family lived. After entering the house, Uchiha Makoto graciously poured a cup of tea for the two of them, and then led the 4-year-old Itachi to the next room. Only Yusuke and Uchiha Fugaku were left. After drinking the hot tea in front of him, Yusuke looked up at Uchiha Fugaku and said, "I'll get straight to the point. Chief Fugaku, I'm here to seek cooperation with you, or rather, to cooperate with the Uchiha clan." Cooperation. Hearing this, Fugaku frowned. He naturally welcomed Yusuke's cooperation, otherwise he would not have asked his child to worship Yusuke as his master shortly after the child was born, but Yusuke was so straightforward that he was a little unsure. Now the situation of the Uchiha clan is very bad. Not only is there factional confrontation within the clan, but the top leaders of Konoha are also eyeing it covetously. Every decision he makes is treading on thin ice. A slight carelessness will cause the Uchiha clan to fall into the abyss. After thinking for a while, Fugaku thought he should listen to the content of the cooperation first, so he said in a deep voice, "But I need to know the specific content of the cooperation." Yusuke nodded slightly, and then said, "The content of the cooperation is very simple. Because I am not happy with Sarutobi Hiruzen sitting in the position of Hokage, and I want to knock him down from above, so I need the support of the Uchiha clan." Hearing this, Fugaku's eyes became sharp. He stared at Yusuke and asked, "Why is it the Uchiha clan?" Yusuke smiled and explained, "Because Sarutobi Hiruzen and other second-generation disciples were deeply influenced by the second-generation Hokage's teachings, they have always been worried about your Uchiha clan. For so many years, the reputation of the Uchiha clan in Konoha has been declining. Now even the villagers are hostile to the Uchiha clan. If this continues, the Uchiha clan has only one choice: rebellion." Uchiha Fugaku was very clear about this, so he sent Uchiha Shisui to join the Hokage lineage and at the same time appease the relationship between the three major factions in the family. The purpose was to improve the impression of the Hokage and the villagers on the Uchiha clan and change this outcome. After a moment of silence, Fugaku nodded slowly and said, "I do want to change the current situation of the Uchiha clan, but how confident are you that you can pull Sarutobi Hiruzen down from the position of Hokage? What can my Uchiha clan get afterwards?" Yusuke asked back with a little disdain. "Confidence, do you think Sarutobi Hiruzen has a chance of winning with my strength?" Fugaku was stunned for a moment, then he laughed. As a member of the Uchiha clan, he knew about Uchiha Madara's strength from the clan records since he was very young, and the battle between Yusuke and Uchiha Madara is still widely circulated in the ninja world. You can imagine how strong Yusuke is. Ignoring Fugaku, Yusuke continued, "As for the Uchiha clan, I will specially develop a set of stable methods to open the Sharingan for you, and I will also train a Hokage for the Uchiha clan." Hokage. Hearing this, Uchiha Fugaku couldn't help but exclaimed. Hokage has always been an obsession for the Uchiha. As one of the two major ninja clans that founded Konoha, Hokage has always been a regret for their clan. This is also the reason why many Uchiha clan members are dissatisfied with Sarutobi Hiruzen and want to rebel. Yusuke nodded. "That's right. Fourth Hokage, I plan to nominate Minato brother, you should agree with him being the Hokage." Fugaku nodded, because his wife Makoto and Kushina were close friends, so he was very familiar with Namikaze Minato and admired him very much. Naturally, he had no objection to him becoming Hokage. At the same time, he also heard what Yusuke meant, that is, the fifth Hokage would be handed over to their Uchiha clan. The first choice in his mind was his son Uchiha Itachi, and Itachi was Yusuke's apprentice, definitely the most suitable candidate. Soon, the two discussed the matters of cooperation. After the discussion, Yusuke felt the condition of Itachi in the next room and found that he already had strong chakra in his body, which was not weaker than that of the genin. Then he turned to look at Uchiha Fugaku and said, "Starting today, let Itachi come to my and the teacher's laboratory in the Forest of Death every afternoon. I will take the time to teach him. By the way, study the method of opening the Sharingan." "Thank you very much, Yusuke." Fugaku's face was full of joy, and he quickly agreed. Uchiha Fugaku personally sent Yusuke away from the Uchiha clan's residence. A few days later, in an open space in the Death Forest, 4-year-old Itachi was exercising in the open space. The fine sweat on his forehead showed that he had been exercising for a long time. At this time, a figure came out of the woods. It was Yusuke. He looked at Itachi, who was training hard, and nodded with satisfaction. Yusuke walked to Itachi, handed him a bottle of water, and said, "Drink some water and take a rest." Itachi took the water and drank it in big gulps. After drinking the water, Itachi looked at Yusuke and asked, "Teacher, what do you say life is?" Yusuke smiled, touched Itachi's head and said, "I don't know either, because everyone has a different perception of life and has his own perception. If you really want to understand, then watch more, listen more, and think more, so that sooner or later you will understand what life is. Listen more, watch more, think more." Itachi was not dissatisfied with Yusuke's answer, but just lowered his head to think about Yusuke's words. Seeing this, Yusuke was also impressed by Itachi's maturity. He began to think about such profound questions at the age of 4. Unlike himself, he only knew to live for himself, eat well, drink well, be intact, and enjoy life. He didn't care what life was. Although he couldn't do it now, he believed that when he was strong enough, these would be easy. "If you have rested enough, continue training. You are forbidden to refine chakra without my consent." "Yes, teacher." Itachi nodded. Although he didn't understand Yusuke's request, he still followed it honestly. Besides, Yusuke also used the sealing technique to seal all the chakra around him. It was difficult to refine the chakra, so it was better to exercise the body. After training every afternoon, Yusuke would also teach Itachi cultural knowledge. It was not the will of fire in the ninja school, but the history of various countries and cultural knowledge of previous lives, and give him various homework. It must be said that Itachi was mature. He didn't feel irritated at all with so much homework, but enjoyed it. It's really embarrassing. While teaching Itachi, Yusuke also found time to find Hinata Hazashi and Hiyashi, the two brothers. Hiyashi Hyuga successfully persuaded the Hyuga clan to cooperate with him through various means such as coercion, inducement, and reasoning. Of course, a certain price was paid, that is, he had to accept the children of the two as apprentices. Yusuke also knew that this was the two people's intention to deepen their cooperation, but thinking about the future of Hinata and Neji, Yusuke agreed. However, one of the requirements was that Nechi could not be trapped, which Hiyashi Hyuga finally agreed to. After solving the Hyuga and Uchiha clans, the next ones were the Aburame, Inuzuka, and Ino-Shika-Cho clans. Among them, Yusuke had already made arrangements with Nara Shikaku for the Ino-Shika-Cho clan. As long as Sarutobi Hiruzen falls, they will naturally support Yusuke. The future clan leader of the Aburame clan, Aburame Shiwei, has always been Yusuke's subordinate in previous wars, and the two are familiar with each other, so it is not difficult to win him over. The same is true for Inuzuka Tsumugi of the Inuzuka clan. The reason why Yusuke did not win over those civilians is mainly because in today's ninja world, it is too difficult for civilian ninjas to rise, there is a lack of ninjutsu inheritance, and there are very few powerful ninjas. The actual controllers and backbone of the major ninja villages are still the major ninja clans. Cooperation with the Aburame clan is relatively simple. After Yusuke weighed the pros and cons, he directly agreed. But when it came to the Inuzuka clan, things became difficult. Inuzuka Tsumugi was not a candidate for the clan leader after all, and he did not have much say in the clan. In the end, he only managed to get an outcome where neither side helped the other. However, this outcome was the best for Yusuke, as long as the Inuzuka clan did not help Sarutobi Hiruzen. In this way, most of the clans in Konoha no longer supported Sarutobi Hiruzen, allowing Yusuke to act more presumptuously in Konoha. In the Hokage's office, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the information in his hand with an ugly expression, and his heart was in turmoil. First it was Uchiha, then Hyuga, and now it's Aburame and Inuzuka. What on earth does this Akamichi Yusuke want to do? Go and discuss it with Shikaku. No, Shikaku is the head of the Nara clan. The three clans of Ino, Shika and Cho are of the same blood. Perhaps he had already colluded with Akamichi Yusuke. After thinking about it in his mind, Sarutobi Hiruzen rejected the idea of asking Nara Shikaku, the first think tank of Konoha, for advice. Someone, go and invite the two consultants, Utane Kaharu and Mitokado N. Soon, Utane Kaharu and Mitokado N pushed the door open and walked in. They looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen and said directly, Hiruzen, what happened? Why did you call us here so urgently? Take a look. As soon as he finished speaking, Sarutobi Hiruzen handed the information in his hand to the two. The two who were originally confused suddenly showed shock. Mitokado N said in a low voice, this Akamichi Yusuke is far more powerful than the Cage level, and now he has won over half of the Konoha families. Is this for your position as Hokage? Hiruzen. Sarutobi Hiruzen said coldly, I am obviously aware of what you said. I asked you two to come here to discuss how to deal with Akamichi Yusuke's plan. If we let it develop, Konoha will sooner or later have no place for the three of us. At this time, Utane Kaharu, who had been sitting next to him and thinking for a long time, suddenly said, with Akamichi Yusuke's strength, we are definitely not his opponent in a head-on confrontation, but we can borrow his strength. Besides, there are many strange forbidden techniques in the Book of Sealing, and there were many elite Jonin in the route led by Danzo at the beginning. After saying that, he looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen with a sneer on his face. Sarutobi Hiruzen showed a look of realization, and asked, Kaharu, you mean the Shiki Fujin and the Impure World Reincarnation Technique? Udatane Kaharu sneered. Yes, it is the Shiki Fujin and the Impure World Reincarnation Technique. No matter how strong Akamichi Yusuke is, he can still be stronger than the god of the ninja world, Senju Hashirama, plus the Shiki Fujin that can seal all souls. When the time comes, as long as the Shodaime-sama who was resurrected by the Impure World Reincarnation and a dozen elite Jonin of the root use the multiple shadow clone technique to perform the Shiki Fujin together, I don't believe Akamichi Yusuke can still be alive. As long as we get rid of him, the remaining people will be easy to deal with given the status of the three of us in Konoha. Sarutobi Hiruzen was silent for a moment, then raised his head and said, Shiki Fujin is easy to do. As long as you have a certain understanding of the sealing technique, you can perform it. But if only a dozen elite Jonin perform it, I guess even Akamichi Yusuke will be killed before he can get close. So we have to rely on the reincarnation of Hashirama to cover it up. But the forbidden technique of Impure World Reincarnation has not been perfected yet, and the strength of Lord Hashirama who was summoned is not enough to entangle Yusuke Akamichi. Udatane Kaharu smiled and said, you don't have to worry about this, Hiruzen. Danzo had done in-depth research on this forbidden technique before his death. After I took over the route, I got this part of the information from Danzo's research materials. At this point, he looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen and smiled, I believe that with your research on ninjutsu, it should not be difficult to perfect this Impure World Reincarnation. I will send someone to teach you the Impure World Reincarnation technique researched by Danzo later. Sarutobi Hiruzen was stunned. He thought that Danzo had hidden something from him, but he didn't expect that he had hidden so much that he didn't even know about the research on the forbidden technique of drawing reincarnation. At the same time, he breathed a sigh of relief and smiled, then I'll leave it to Kaharu. Soon someone handed the Impure World Reincarnation that Danzo was researching to Sarutobi Hiruzen. Looking at the results of various experiments and the speculations about the seals, Sarutobi Hiruzen took a breath of cold air. How many people had to be sacrificed to have such a huge amount of information? Then Sarutobi Hiruzen sneered, but it's good this way. These research results will help me perfect this Impure World Reincarnation technique. Chapter 71. Yusuke, who was studying the way to open the Sharingan in the Forest of Death, did not know the plan of Sarutobi Hiruzen and others, but even if he knew, he would not take it seriously. This was the confidence brought by strength. Itachi, who had learned Yusuke's training method, had a different physical fitness every day. In just half a month, his physical fitness had doubled. This change surprised Itachi and made him practice harder. At the same time, Yusuke continued his own practice, using ink and wash skills to open up the acupuncture points all over his body and create a perfect lymphatic circulation system every day, and his strength was steadily improving. Half a year passed quickly, and the aftermath of the war was completely over. Some time ago, Rinhara died in the hands of Kakashi, which made this child, who was originally obsessed with a dead end, completely depressed. He was immersed in the tasks of the Anbu every day, and the whole person became like an iceberg, and strangers were kept away. At this time, Kushina got pregnant before marriage and married Minato. The two moved out of the Senju clan and bought a large villa in the center of Konoha as their new home. After attending the wedding, Yusuke returned to his home and lay on the sofa to think. Sister Kushina is pregnant, which means there are less than 10 months until Naruto is born, which means the Nine Tails Rebellion is about to come. Although the seal of the Nine Tails is strong due to my own reasons, I don't know much about the methods of Black Zetsu and Madara. Maybe there is a way to break the seal, so it is better to prepare early. Rin was killed by Kakashi, which has shown that Obito was really captured by Madara and Black Zetsu, and the blackened Obito will definitely choose to retaliate against Konoha and the Hidden Mist Village. In order to prevent possible crises in the future, we still have to make some preparations. First of all, Yusuke is strong, and even Minato Namikaze and Kushina can do it now, but I am afraid that Black Zetsu will play dirty. This yin-yang escape creature has lived for thousands of years, and I am afraid that he has a lot of forbidden techniques with unimaginable effects. We have to guard against this. To be on the safe side, the location of the birth should not be disclosed to Sarutobi Hiruzen and the others. When the time comes, Orochimaru can just use the clones to create a few physical clones for them to see. After coming up with the idea, Yusuke began to prepare. Impure World Reincarnation Technique. In the underground base of the root, Sarutobi Hiruzen shouted in a low voice, quickly formed seals with his hands, and then slammed them heavily on the ground. As he moved, a powerful chakra surged from his body and quickly spread in all directions. Immediately afterwards, countless pieces of paper and impure earth surged out from the ground like a tide, tightly wrapping up the death row prisoner standing in the middle. These pieces of paper and impure earth seemed to have life, constantly wriggling, and finally gradually solidified into a human figure. When the human figure was completely formed, Danzo's familiar face appeared in front of everyone. He slowly opened his eyes full of confusion and doubt. He looked around, looking at the familiar environment around him, and muttered to himself, Am I not dead? Where is this? Why am I here? At this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen's voice came into his ears, Danzo, long time no see. Hearing this voice, Danzo turned his head abruptly and saw Sarutobi Hiruzen standing not far away. An expression of surprise and disbelief appeared on his face, and he blurted out, Sarutobi. What's wrong with me? Why did I become like this? Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Danzo, with a barely perceptible smile in his eyes. He walked forward slowly and explained, Don't worry, Danzo. You were indeed dead before, but I used the Impure World Reincarnation Technique to summon your soul back from the Pure Land and reshape your body. So, although you are dead now, you can be resurrected again in this form. Danzo was shocked by what Sarutobi Hiruzen said. He frowned and fell into deep thought. After a while, he raised his head, stared at Sarutobi Hiruzen sharply, and asked, What happened to that Akamichi Yusuke? That guy actually directed all of Uchiha Madara's attacks to me, and was directly burned to ashes by Madara's fire escape. Sarutobi Hiruzen said coldly, Your death is indeed related to Akamichi Yusuke. Danzo's eyes showed murderous intent. So, that fool was not killed by Uchiha Madara, and he returned to Konoha safely. Sarutobi Hiruzen nodded, acknowledging the fact. Danzo gnashed his teeth, This fool actually dared to kill me. Sarutobi Hiruzen said with a stern face, Danzo, things have come to this point, and there is no point in saying more. The most important thing at the moment is to deal with the next situation. Now that Akamichi Yusuke has shown his fangs and started to covet the position of Hokage, we can't let him succeed. Anyone in Konoha can be the Hokage now, except Yusuke Akamichi. Danzo looked at the body covered with cracks, and he hated Yusuke in his heart. It was him who shattered his dream of being a Hokage and made him completely lose the chance of that position. Even if he died again now, he would never let Yusuke get involved in that position. Thinking of this, Danzo said in a deep voice, Hiruzen, what is your plan? I don't believe that you brought me back to life just to experiment with the impure world reincarnation technique, you must have your own considerations. Yes, I have a plan. Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled and told Danzo the complete plan he, Udatane Kaharu and Mito Kato-en had perfected. So I need you and the root members to perform the forbidden technique of the demonic sealing technique. Danzo was silent for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, okay, there is not much difference between being in the Pure Land and being in the Death God's place anyway, I will personally seal Akamichi Yusuke then. By the way, Danzo, how much are you stronger now than you were in life? At this time, Hiruzen also remembered the results of the impure world reincarnation experiment. Danzo nodded, felt the flow of chakra in his body, and fired a few wind-style vacuum balls at the wall next to him. The powerful wind bombs left several huge holes on the wall. Then he performed other ninjutsu and felt the speed and strength. He soon came to the conclusion. The power of the ninjutsu has not changed, but the chakra output in the body is only 70% of that in life, and the strength and speed are 80%. However, the impure world reincarnation body can be infinitely repaired, and the chakra is infinite, which makes it much stronger than before life. Just saying this is not enough. Sarutobi Hiruzen frowned, his face solemn. When the strength reaches a certain level, the immortality and infinite chakra possessed by the impure world reincarnation are basically useless. If the speed, strength and chakra output are not enough, even if we can reincarnate the first generation, we can't be the opponent of Akamichi Yusuke. As time went by, the leaves in the forest of death turned from yellow to green again, and Kushina's belly also changed from flat to a ball, and she was about to give birth. In the villa, Yusuke laid out his plan in full. Kushina touched her belly with loving eyes, and did not say much, just looked at Minato, and the meaning was very clear, let Minato make the decision on everything. Minato touched his chin and thought for a while, then said, I guess Sarutobi Hiruzen really wants to do something when Kushina gives birth, and he even found Jiraiya teacher and his wife Sarutobi Bawako, just to find out where Kushina will give birth. Now that it has been confirmed, let's follow your plan, Yusuke. However, whether Orochimaru's physical clone can simulate the state of pregnancy, you must know that Sarutobi Bawako is also a top medical ninja, and ordinary simulation methods can't be hidden from her at all. Minato still respects and loves Jiraiya very much, otherwise he would not have named his child after the protagonist of Jiraiya's book. It's just that because of Sarutobi Hiruzen, he dare not get too close for the time being. Yusuke said confidently, I have asked teacher Orochimaru about what you said a long time ago. Some of his clones are female. As long as some tricks are used, it is very simple to simulate the state of pregnancy. In order to make Sister Kushina's clone realistic, we even used all the Nine Tails chakra in the laboratory to ensure that Bawako can't see any flaws. Minato, Yusuke, then I will leave Kushina's safety to you. Inside the root base, with the impure world reincarnation of Danzo, the root, which was originally a mess, was gathered together again. All of them were asked by Danzo to practice the secret technique of the demonic fuinjutsu. At the same time, they also studied the impure world reincarnation technique with Sarutobi Hiruzen. At first, they used prisoners in Konoha prison for experiments, but as the experiments progressed, the prisoners in Konoha prison had been used up, not only death row prisoners but even prisoners who were caught for petty thefts. Basically, as long as they were ninjas, they were used for impure world reincarnation experiments. In the laboratory, Danzo sat on a chair and said ruthlessly, Hiruzen, don't hesitate. It's almost time for Uzumaki Kushina to give birth. If we can't take this opportunity to kill Akamichi Yusuke, we don't know when the next chance will be. So we must perfect the impure world reincarnation. Sarutobi Hiruzen struggled and hesitated, and said coldly, but there are no ninjas in Konoha prison now. Do you want me to attack people in the village? The impure world reincarnation experiment has reached the most critical moment. As long as this last difficulty is overcome, the impure world reincarnation of Hashirama Senju with full strength can be reborn, and he is very confident that he can completely control this powerful existence. However, at this moment, he is facing a serious problem: lack of experimental subjects. Time is running out. If we go to capture the wandering ninjas in the ninja world now, it is obviously too late. It is even more impossible to capture the ninjas of Konoha. After all, He is the Hokage of Konoha village. Even if he is hypocritical in his heart, he will never attack Konoha village's own ninjas. If you want an experimental subject, I can help. Just when Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen were in trouble, suddenly, a burst of young laughter was heard in the air. Then, the space in front of them began to distort, and a mysterious man wearing a black robe of fire cloud and an orange spiral mask suddenly appeared in front of them. Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen's faces instantly became extremely ugly. They quickly formed seals with their hands without hesitation, and chakra gushed out like surging waves. At the same time, they shouted coldly, "Who are you?" This is the most hidden and safest place in Konoha. The barrier outside has to be replaced every day. Even Yusuke did not sense that Danzo was resurrected by the impure world reincarnation, and at this time someone could enter quietly. This made the two of them feel like they were facing a great enemy. The mysterious man bowed comically and said with a smile, "First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Afe, the messenger of Lord Madara. I heard that you are going to deal with Yusuke Akamichi, so I came here to help." Because of the battle between Yusuke and Madara, Obito did not call himself Uchiha Madara as in the original work, but used the pseudonym Afe. Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen shouted in shock, "Uchiha Madara." That's right. Afe nodded, then lowered his body, and appeared behind the two of them the next second. He stretched out his hand and patted them gently, and continued, "Not long after the battle with Yusuke Akamichi, Lord Madara died of serious injuries. His only wish before he died was to kill Yusuke Akamichi, but I don't have as much power as Lord Madara, so I have to rely on the power of others. As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think you two should cooperate with me." Sarutobi Hiruzen did not completely believe what Afe said. In his opinion, Madara's death might be true, but killing Yusuke Akamichi might be only a small part of the plan of the person in front of him, and there must be other purposes. So, since we are cooperating, what does Konoha need to pay? I don't believe you will help me unconditionally. Back then, Master Madara used the nine-tailed fox as a summoning beast, and I inherited the nine-tailed fox's summoning technique. At this point, Afe did not continue, but the meaning was clear. Sarutobi Hiruzen directly refused. "Impossible, the nine tails is Konoha's precious property, I can't give it to you." Ha! Afe couldn't help laughing, looking at Sarutobi Hiruzen with disdain. But now the nine tails Jinchuriki has no trust in you at all, and has already walked on the opposite side of you, and is even your enemy. What's the point of keeping such a nine tails Jinchuriki in Konoha? I'm afraid it will only threaten your position. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen was silent. At this time, Danzo, who had been sitting aside, spoke, "Hiruzen, this Afe is right. Kushina is the one who masters the power of the nine tails. If we can't solve it now, even if we kill Akamichi Yusuke later, her revenge is not something we can bear. Just kill her and Akamichi Yusuke together. Besides, what does it matter if we don't have the nine tails? In all these wars, the nine tails Jinchuriki not only didn't help at all, but also because we had to worry about and take care of them, we Konoha ninjas couldn't fight with all our strength. Without the nine tails Jinchuriki, perhaps our Konoha's strength can be taken to a higher level. The nine tails is the strongest among the nine-tailed beasts, and the most difficult to control. From the history that has been passed down to this day, no one has been able to make it surrender. Even the former Jinchuriki Uzumaki Mito and the current Jinchuriki Uzumaki Kushina forcibly extracted the nine tails' power and combined it with their own power, and they were not one with the nine tails. As for Madara and Hashirama, who used absolute strength to suppress the nine tails, it does not count. Danzo's words finally made Sarutobi Hiruzen waver. Yes, except for the Shodaime who was able to subdue the nine tails, until now, they have never mastered this power once. Even because of the Jinchuriki, the villagers are afraid that the nine tails will lose control and threaten their lives every day. Why not hand over the nine tails? In this way, Konoha may be easier to control. Thinking of this, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Afe and said coldly, "Since it is a cooperation, how many experimental subjects can you provide for us? And how much help can you provide for us? If there are too few experimental subjects and too little help, the nine tails will not be given to you." Obito smiled softly and said, "Don't worry about this, there are as many experimental subjects as you want, and each one is more suitable than a ninja to be a sacrifice for the impure world reincarnation, which can allow the reincarnated to exert stronger strength. After saying this, Obito's scarlet single eye turned into a sickle-like Mangekyo Sharingan, and then the space in front of him began to distort, and a white Zetsu with a pure white body flew out of the space, and in just a moment it occupied half of the space in front of him. Looking at the creature in front of them that was neither human nor ghost, Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen hurried forward to observe, and the more they looked, the more familiar it felt. It was not until Danzo cut off the arm of one of the white Zetsu and looked at the arm flowing with white liquid that the two reacted. These creatures were cultivated from Hashirama's cells, no wonder I feel very familiar with them. Ah Fei nodded. Yes, after the battle between Madara-sama and Senju Hashirama, he began to study Hashirama's cells and achieved certain research success. These white Zetsu are one of the products of Hashirama's cells. What do you think? Are these white Zetsu suitable as sacrifices for the impure world reincarnation? Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen fell silent. It was indeed as Ah Fei said, white Zetsu whose whole body was made up of Hashirama's cells was the most suitable sacrifice for the reincarnation of Hashirama Senju, and could even summon Hashirama Senju in his prime. Ah Fei once again mentioned his other help. Also, I will take full responsibility for the Nine Tails Jinchuriki and his wife. You just need to deal with Akamichi Yusuke. It was Ah Fei's plan to let Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen deal with Akamichi Yusuke. He did not forget Uchiha Madara's advice to him before his death, that he must not face Akamichi Yusuke alone before he was absolutely sure. Even though he cooperated with Sarutobi Hiruzen this time, he also had the idea of testing Yusuke's strength. With white Zetsu, a creature transformed from the sacred tree and very close to Hashirama's cells, the perfection of the impure world reincarnation technique was very smooth. In just less than 10 days, they successfully developed an impure world reincarnation technique that could exert 95% of its strength. 95%. For people like Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, it is easy to exert nearly peak strength. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the white Zetsu in front of him with a solemn expression, slowly formed seals with both hands, and slapped the ground with force, and runes appeared with white Zetsu as the center, and the dirty world appeared to wrap up white Zetsu, and soon the figure of Senju Hashirama appeared. Senju Hashirama slowly opened his eyes and looked around blankly, and soon saw Sarutobi Hiruzen in front of him and Danzo with a cracked face next to him, and wondered, "Little monkey. You are so old already." Besides, this is the impure world reincarnation technique. After just a few breaths, Senju Hashirama realized his condition, and his voice unconsciously became a little colder, and he said with a hint of anger, "I told Tobarama a long time ago not to invent this kind of forbidden technique. Don't invent this kind of forbidden technique. Now, after all these years, we still have to disturb the soul of the dead." Sarutobi Hiruzen deliberately smiled bitterly, stepped forward and cried, "Master Hashirama, we don't want to disturb your soul's slumber, but there is really no way. Konoha is now on the brink of life and death." On the brink of life and death. Hashirama Senju was confused. He had only been dead for a few years, and the monkey was still alive. How come Konoha was on the brink of life and death? He quickly turned on the sage mode, and a mask appeared on his face. He began to use the powerful perception ability of the sage mode to explore the entire Konoha. However, the situation in Konoha was not as he thought, that was, being attacked by the enemy. Instead, they lived and worked in peace and contentment, and even the population was several times more than when he was there. Not only that, he also felt several strong auras, each of which was not weaker than Tobarama's at the time. This made Hashirama even more confused. Wasn't Konoha pretty good? So he looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen with a puzzled look. As if he saw what Hashirama Senju was thinking, Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled bitterly and said, "Lord Hashirama, the crisis does not come from the outside, but from within Konoha. A member of the Akamichi clan has united with most of the big clans such as the Uchiha clan to force the palace. This person does not believe in the will of fire at all, and only thinks about himself. If they succeed, what will Konoha become? I really can't imagine it." Hearing this, Senju Hashirama frowned. He didn't want to care about Konoha's own affairs, because he believed that the younger generation would make the right choice. Although he was emotionally inclined to Sarutobi Hiruzen's opinion, he also wanted to hear Akamichi Yusuke's thoughts and why he wanted to overthrow Sarutobi Hiruzen. He didn't just believe Sarutobi Hiruzen's one-sided words. Noticing the hesitation on Hashirama's face, Sarutobi Hiruzen knew that his words were not trusted, and his heart was burning with anger. We are both Hokage, why don't you believe me? I'm obviously trying so hard to carry out your will. But he couldn't show it on his face. Sarutobi Hiruzen continued to cry. Lord Hashirama, that Akamichi Yusuke is very hateful. He has joined forces with Uchiha Madara to kill Danzo. We are really no match for him. Didn't Madara die back then? Senju Hashirama was shocked, and at the same time he found Danzo, who was also in the state of impure world reincarnation, so he reluctantly believed what Sarutobi Hiruzen said. He turned to look at Shimura Danzo and asked, Danzo, are you sure it's Uchiha Madara? Danzo glanced at Sarutobi Hiruzen, stepped forward and said respectfully, Master Hashirama, I am very sure, because I experienced everything myself. So that's how it is. Izanagi, I didn't expect that, even I was fooled at the beginning. In just a moment, Hashirama Senju figured out the real reason why Madara was not dead, and then showed a self-deprecating smile. So, what do you want me to do? Sarutobi Hiruzen said, I hope that Lord Hashirama can help us to contain Akamichi Yusuke, so that we have time to complete the seal on him and the Uchiha and other big clans, so that the whole Konoha will have only one voice, so that Konoha can prosper. Hashirama hesitated for a moment, and finally agreed to Sarutobi Hiruzen's request. With the existence of Hashirama Senju, Sarutobi Hiruzen was more confident. If he was not afraid that taking back Hashirama Senju's consciousness would affect his strength and he could not beat Yusuke Akamichi, why would he bother to sell his misery to gain sympathy? Hashirama Senju looked into the distance, his eyes seemed to travel through time and space, and saw his former comrades and disciples. I will do my best to protect Konoha, he said softly. Because of the large number of barriers that blocked the senses at the root, Yusuke did not find that Hashirama Senju had been resurrected by the impure world reincarnation. At this time, he and Orochimaru were adjusting the status of the clones, striving to make Minato and Kushina be able to separate perfect physical clones. Orochimaru skillfully used the chakra left by Minato and Kushina to adapt the clones, and asked with a little confusion in his eyes, Yusuke, how are you sure that Uchiha Madara will send people to collect the power of the tailed beasts? Looking at Orochimaru, Yusuke felt that it was time to reveal some secret information, because the 9-tailed beasts were originally one. They were created by the Six-Path Sage using the power of yin and yang to separate the chakra from the 10 tails, the legendary god tree. Madara has awakened the Samsara Eye and obtained the original body of the 10 tails. As long as the 9-tailed beasts are taken back, the god tree can be resurrected and become the new Six-Path Sage. This time, Sister Kushina's childbirth is definitely a good opportunity, and he should not let it go. Quote, bang, the clone fell heavily to the ground. Orochimaru looked at Yusuke in disbelief, and his heart could not calm down for a long time. He knew the legends of the tailed beasts and the sacred tree, and even the legend of the goddess of the moon, but he never thought that these were true, nor did he connect them together. Now that he heard what Yusuke said, he couldn't believe it. Even ignoring the clone, Orochimaru grabbed Yusuke's shoulders with both hands and shook him excitedly. Yusuke, are you telling the truth? The tailed beasts are really separated from the sacred tree by the Six-Path Sage. Yes, that's right, Yusuke nodded and explained. If Orochimaru doesn't believe it, he can go to the Uchiha Shrine in person and use Yindun to check the information on the stone tablet. It records some things about the period of the past. The stone tablet in the Uchiha Ancestral Hall has a lot of information recorded by the Six-Path Sage. Although Black Zetsu has made some modifications, he has only changed the key points, and only the Sharingan can see it. But the essence of the Sharingan's evolution is Yin-Tun. When the nature of Yin-Tun is practiced to a certain level, the content recorded on the stone tablet can be seen by using mental power. Orochimaru's fate has changed since he met Yusuke. He attaches great importance to Yin-Tun. Now his strength in Yin-Tun is not inferior to the Mangekyo Sharingan. In terms of application, it is even several blocks ahead of the Mangekyo Sharingan. It is very easy to see the content on the stone tablet. If it weren't for the Mangekyo Sharingan, the pupil of the soul, which can breed pupil techniques according to the true thoughts in the heart, it is hard to say who is stronger between Yin-Tun and Sharingan. The stone tablet in the Uchiha Shrine. I will go and see it. An inexplicable gleam flashed in Orochimaru's eyes, and he became more and more excited when he looked at the tailed beast chakra he collected. If the 9-tailed beasts were really one, then did it mean that he could gather the power of the 9-tailed beasts and fuse them into one, and use this fused chakra to break the shackles of immortals and mortals and become the new sage of 6 paths? The more he thought about it, the more possible it seemed to him, and he couldn't help but feel happy. Putting the clone on the ground back on the experimental table, Orochimaru's movements unconsciously sped up a lot, and he couldn't wait to go to the Uchiha clan. Not long after, Orochimaru adjusted the clone. The scrolls of clones and physical clones were thrown to Yusuke, and then he disappeared in the laboratory, leaving Yusuke speechless. With the scrolls of clones and physical clones, Yusuke used Flying Thunder God to come to Kushina and Minato's new home. Seeing Yusuke coming, Minato hurried forward, his face extremely solemn, and said, "Yusuke, I just found out that in the past 2 years, Sarutobi Hiruzen has been extracting ninja prisoners from the prison. These prisoners have never appeared since they were extracted, and it is not clear what Sarutobi Hiruzen wants these people for." Experiment. These 2 words instantly emerged in Yusuke's mind. Only experiments would require a large number of test subjects, but what exactly is Sarutobi Hiruzen experimenting with? Wood release. Shouldn't it be? Although the power of wood release is strong, it is not enough to make Sarutobi Hiruzen so obsessed. After all, not everyone is Hashirama Senju who can play wood release with all his might. If it is not wood release, then there are only a large number of forbidden techniques recorded in the Book of Seals, and among these forbidden techniques, only the Impure World Reincarnation Technique and the Chira Bud Technique require a large number of test subjects. The Chira Bud Technique was taken away by the Hokuru a long time ago, so only the Impure World Reincarnation Technique is left. So that's it, you want to use the Impure World Reincarnation Technique against me. Thinking of this, Yusuke's eyes flashed with realization, and he turned to look at Minato and Kushina, took out the 2 adjusted clones and the physical clone scroll from the sealed wristband, and smiled. "Don't worry, I have guessed what Sarutobi Hiruzen is doing, there is not much threat. Brother Minato, sister, you 2 should quickly separate the clones and prepare for production. I'm still waiting to see Naruto." Good. Seeing Yusuke so confident, Minato was relieved. He took the 2 clones and the physical clone scroll with a smile and sat aside with Kushina to study. The practice of physical clones is not difficult. In essence, it is a variant of shadow clones, but it needs a physical body. Both Minato and Kushina are masters of using shadow clones, so they quickly learned physical clones. The 2 came to their respective clones and looked at the 2 clones that seemed to be sleeping. They were also amazed at Orochimaru's methods, but they didn't have much time to observe. Kushina's due date was tomorrow, and they needed to be fully prepared. Hands quickly formed seals, and a stream of chakra flowed out of their bodies and sank into the clones. The clones that originally looked like Orochimaru instantly turned into Minato and Kushina. "Brother Minato, sister, let's go together." Minato and Kushina nodded, and the 2 of them stretched out their hands on Yusuke's shoulders. The next second, the 3 of them disappeared from the spot and appeared on an island with beautiful mountains and waters and a huge lake. There are 3 wooden houses next to the lake. A middle-aged man with silver hair is wearing a bamboo hat and holding a long bamboo pole to fish. It is the White Fang who was rescued by Yusuke and others. After traveling in the ninja world for a while, White Fang got tired of the life of a ninja. He found this island in the southernmost waters and began to live in seclusion. At the same time, he passed the news of the location to Yusuke and Minato. This is the 2nd time that Yusuke has come to this place. The last time he came, Yusuke sent his parents here. Seeing Yusuke and others appear in front of him, the middle-aged man put down the fishing rod in his hand without hesitation, with joy on his face, and said loudly, "Yusuke, Minato, Kushina, you are finally here. I have been waiting for a long time and I can't wait." Hearing this, Minato raised the corners of his mouth slightly, revealing a smile, and responded, "Lord White Fang, it's been a long time since we last met." There was a hint of intimacy and respect in his voice. At this moment, there was a sudden noise from the wooden house next to him, and then 2 figures walked out of it. These 2 people were tall and strong, and they were Yusuke's parents, Akamichi Kazuki and Akamichi Jinin. This time, Akamichi Jinin, who had a heavy responsibility on his shoulders, would be responsible for delivering Kushina. As soon as the couple saw Minato and Kushina, their faces were immediately filled with bright smiles, and they greeted them enthusiastically. Minato, Kushina. You are here. Their tone was full of joy and anticipation. Yusuke came over and greeted his parents with a smile. Brother Minato, you stay here with me while I give birth. My mom also knows some medical ninjutsu, which is enough for me to deliver the baby. In addition, with the presence of White Fang, even if the Nine Tails escapes, I believe your strength is enough to suppress it. Then you should be careful. If the situation is really not right, use Flying Thunder God to transfer it, and then we will face it together. Minato was still very confident in Yusuke's strength. He knew in his heart that no one in the entire ninja world could stop Yusuke, and it was even more difficult to kill him. Yes, Yusuke nodded and disappeared the next moment. A valley in the back of Konoha. The sky was dark, and the bright moonlight tore through the dark clouds, illuminating the entire earth. An orange barrier enveloped the entire valley, and Kushina and Minato's physical clones pretended to give birth in a cave in the valley, and Sarutobi Bawako came to help as a midwife. Ah! Kushina cried out in pain, but her stomach didn't move at all, and even her amniotic fluid didn't break, which made Bawako feel very strange. Could this not be Kushina? This thought suddenly emerged in Bawako's mind, but she rejected it immediately, because she had checked Kushina's body before giving birth, and even the pregnancy was real. It could only be the Nine Tails, because there has never been a precedent of a Jinchuriki getting pregnant, so no matter what happens, it won't be surprising. At this moment, the space around Kushina began to distort, and a phase figure appeared instantly. He swung his hand at Bawako and a black stick shot out, directly piercing Bawako's chest. The next second, he was in front of Kushina. A phase scarlet single eye revealed a complicated look. Kushina was his master's wife, and she took great care of him. Many times when he was rejected by Lin and hid by Kakashi, it was Kushina who comforted him. But when he thought of the dead Lin, the reluctance in his eyes disappeared instantly, replaced by ruthlessness. I'm sorry, master, in order to create a world with Lin, I need the Nine Tails, so I can only sacrifice you. Although Kushina lying on the bed was only a physical clone, she also possessed Kushina's consciousness and strength. Naturally, she could see that someone wanted to harm her. She instantly put on the golden-tailed beast coat and punched Afe. At the same time, Minato, who noticed someone, also appeared instantly. His figure flashed above Afe, and he held the Rasengan in his right hand and smashed it down. The imagined feeling of hitting the entity did not appear. The attacks of Kushina and Minato passed through Afe's body at the same time, and under the action of inertia, they almost collided with each other. Minato hugged Kushina in his arms, dodged to the side, and looked at Afe with a serious face. Time-space eye technique. This is troublesome. As a person who is proficient in time-space ninjutsu, Minato knows best how difficult time-space ninjutsu is. As long as the owner of time-space ninjutsu does not want to, they are almost invincible. The strength of the teacher and the master's wife is still so strong. No matter who attacks him, he will be injured if he does not die, especially the master's wife, who can still have such strength when she is about to give birth. But when he thought of these two people with such strength, but failed to save Lin in time, the hatred in Afe's eyes became more and more vigorous. As the fastest in the ninja world, why are you so powerful but can't save Lin? Thinking of this, the hatred in Afe's heart became stronger, and the originally stagnant eye power increased again. With the transplanted half of the white Zetsu cells, the Mangekyo Sharingan actually grew again and has gone beyond the level of the Mangekyo. Such a strong hatred, and he also possesses space-time ninjutsu. I'm afraid it will be difficult to deal with him. Relying on the ability of the Nine Tails, Kushina also felt the hatred that was pure to the extreme, and her heart was extremely shocked. But at the same time, she couldn't understand why someone would hate them so much when she and her husband didn't seem to have many enemies. Minato, you know Flying Thunder God and may have a chance to attack him. I'll help you with that. Minato nodded. Okay. At the same time, in another open space in the back mountain, Yusuke was looking at a middle-aged man walking slowly in front of him. The man was wearing crimson armor, carrying a huge ninjutsu scroll on his back, with a determined look on his face. Sarutobi Hiruzen really wanted to use the impure world reincarnation of Senju Hashirama to deal with me. Yusuke's eyes showed a look of realization, then he raised his head and looked at the man who had come to him, and said in a cold voice, Shodime-sama, I didn't expect Sarutobi Hiruzen to really reincarnate you, and it seems that your strength is at its peak. Senju Hashirama stopped and looked at Yusuke with some surprise. You don't seem surprised, as if you knew that your opponent would be me. Of course, Yusuke smiled confidently, I have also read the Book of Sealed. When Sarutobi Hiruzen extracted a large number of ninjas from the prison, I guessed that he would use some forbidden technique against me, and the Impure World reincarnation technique is the most likely one. Hearing this, Senju Hashirama was a little confused. Since you have already guessed it, why don't you stop it? Yusuke smiled and asked back, why should you stop it? I have fought with Uchiha Madara before, but he was already over 90 years old at that time, and it was good enough that he could only exert half of his strength. At that time I wanted to fight you and him at his peak to prove my strength. Sarutobi Hiruzen can make my wish come true in another way, why should I stop him? In fact, the truth is that it was too late when Shangji knew about it. Of course, he himself also had the idea of fighting with Senju Hashirama, so he was very much looking forward to it. After hearing Shangji's explanation, Senju Hashirama suddenly said, so that's it. Danzo. His eyes swept across the woods and he could smell the familiar atmosphere inside. He smiled with disdain and then looked up at Hashirama Senju. Shodime-sama, should we change the battlefield? If we fight here, it will affect Konoha. Good. Senju Hashirama laughed. It seems that this Akamichi Yuji is not as evil as Monkey said. The two smiled in tacit understanding, and their figures flashed, turning into two lightning bolts, one golden and one purple, and ran towards the direction of the Valley of the End at full speed. Danzo and others hiding in the dark did not react at all. Chase. Danzo's face darkened, and he immediately gave the order, leading a dozen root Jonin to chase after him. If he missed this opportunity, he would really have no chance to kill Shangji. On the great plain in front of the Valley of the End, a gentle breeze blew, stirring up waves of grass. Junior, I don't know what happened between you and the monkey. But I can't stand watching Konoha in turmoil, so let me capture you and see what you think. Before he finished speaking, Hashirama Senju, who was chasing after Shangji, had already clasped his hands together. Wood release. Tree world arrives. Hundreds of trees quickly grew on the ground beneath Yusuke's feet. These trees were uprooted and turned into a huge forest, entwining from all directions like fangs and claws. A red shadow rushed straight into the sky from the forest and stopped steadily in the air. It seems that Lord Hashirama doesn't know much and takes action against me. How foolish. After all, Monkey is the Hokage of Konoha, and he was chosen by Tobirama himself. I believe in Tobirama's choice. Wood style. Wood dragon technique. Yusuke's words did not shake Senju Hashirama in the slightest. The first-generation Hokage who had experienced the bloody baptism of the Warring States period had a will as strong as a rock. Ordinary words could not shake his will at all, even if these words were true. A huge wooden dragon was seen circling up from under Hashirama's feet, dragging Senju Hashirama towards Yusuke in the air. Go! Yusuke swung his right arm forward suddenly, and dozens of giant rock spears as long as 100 meters appeared behind him in an instant, shooting out like arrows from a bow. The rock spears collided with the wooden dragon, making a loud noise that shook the earth. Wood chips and stones flew everywhere, and the whole space was shaking. At the same time, Yusuke and Senju Hashirama also collided violently like two meteors. In an instant, it seemed as if the whole world was shaking. The powerful force that erupted between them set off a gust of wind, blowing everything around them away. What a terrifying power! It's not weaker than me who has already achieved diamond indestructibility. Yusuke's face changed. He didn't expect that he couldn't crush me in close combat. You know, ninjas are almost all assassins with thin blood, and their attack methods are mainly ninjutsu. The Senju Hashirama and Kai in front of him are definitely outliers. The battle between Yusuke and Senju Hashirama became more and more intense. Both sides refused to give in, and neither could do anything to the other, especially since Senju Hashirama is still a reincarnated body. As long as he can't cause fatal damage in an instant, he is basically immortal. Of course, Yusuke is not inferior to the reincarnated Senju Hashirama, diamond indestructible, 9 breaths of conviction, the 6-story immortal thief, and some endocrine and circulatory systems. Although he is a little behind Hashirama Senju in terms of chakra volume, his physique, chakra recovery speed and other aspects are much stronger than Hashirama Senju. Wood style. Wooden man technique. Senju Hashirama put his hands together, then quickly slapped the ground. A huge wooden man 100 meters high instantly rose from the ground. It was called a wooden man, but in fact it was more like an ape, with a 100-meter-long wooden dragon as its tail behind it. With the cooperation of this, even Susanoo would not be its opponent. Super multiplication technique. Yusuke didn't hesitate at all. He turned into a 100-meter giant, clenched his fist and punched the wooden man. Compared to Hashirama Senju himself, the giant wooden man couldn't use super strength, but only relied on his huge size and chakra to drive the superimposed power. Presumably, compared to Yusuke, who has become bigger himself and can operate chakra finely, his strength is still a lot worse. The huge wooden man was beaten back by Yusuke, and when he punched the wooden man's chest, a powerful force burst out, directly breaking a hill-like hole in his chest. Hashirama Senju stood on the top of the wooden dragon's head, looking at the huge Yusuke through the hole with a solemn expression. The super multiplication technique is much more flexible than the wooden man. Even with the cooperation of the wooden man, it is still a lot worse. Although this injury is nothing to the wooden man who uses chakra concentration, as long as he concentrates chakra, he can recover, but he is much less flexible than Yusuke, so he can only passively take the beating. As for using fake moves and predictions to counterattack, Senju Hashirama has never thought about it. With their strength, fake moves and predictions are top-notch, and it is difficult to deceive the opponent, so the competition is about real strength. There is no other way but to try Maki Senju. I hope this kid can survive. Sage technique would release true 3,000 hands. After a long time of attack, Hashirama Senju did not intend to delay any longer. He activated the Sage mode instantly, put his hands together, and shouted loudly. Chakra like the abyss burst out from his body, and a huge and boundless wooden Buddha rose from the ground. The wooden Buddha was 800 meters tall, with his hands clasped together. Behind him were thousands of arms, stacked layer by layer, as if endless. The palm of each arm was much larger than Yusuke's. You have to know that Yusuke is now 100 meters tall, but even so, it is only equivalent to the palm of Konoha. Come on, let me see how strong this true 3,000 hands is. Seeing the appearance of the Buddha, Yusuke's expression was more solemn than ever before, and the senjutsu chakra in his body circulated rapidly in his meridians, and he began to mobilize all his strength. In fact, Hashirama Senju was as strong as Uchiha Madara. The reason why he was stronger than Uchiha was that he was stronger in the senjutsu wood release, and he was stronger in this move of true 3,000 hands. The senjutsu wood release, which already had the nature of the sacred tree, had absolute restraint on all the moves performed by chakra. Boom! Thousands of wooden arms waved wildly in the air, making sharp, piercing, and deafening explosions. They covered the sky and blocked out the sun, like a surging torrent, rushing in from all directions, as if to tear the whole world apart. Is this the strength of the first generation? Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen in the distance stared at the towering wooden Buddha with their eyes wide open in disbelief. I knew from childhood that Hashirama Senju, known as the God of Ninja World, was very powerful, but I didn't expect him to be so strong. Immediately, the two of them showed their joy. Hashirama Senju was so powerful, so wouldn't Yusuke be defeated under such an attack? Everyone, get ready, wait for the first generation to finish the attack, then immediately go forward and seal Akimichi Yusuke. The bodies of the dozen or so root members present instantly tensed up, their eyes fixed on the giant that was 100 meters tall in the distance. Yusuke was surrounded, but he was not afraid. His eyes were wide open, his muscles were tense, and a huge amount of senjutsu chakra flowed through his body without any spillover. Driven by the huge amount of chakra, Yusuke's body temperature began to rise, his skin became red, and the air around him began to burn. His fists were like thousands of arrows, instantly turning into a sky full of fist shadows rushing up. Boom, boom, boom. The endless sound of air exploding resounded throughout the ultimate valley. The harsh sound waves made all the root members hiding in the dark cover their ears unconsciously, but even so, blood continued to seep out of their 7 orifices. The fight between Yusuke and Maki Senju did not end, but became more and more intense. Even Yusuke himself did not know how many punches he had thrown. He only knew that every time he threw a punch, there was a sound of a huge tree breaking, and there was no telling how much broken wood was piled up under his feet. What a good idea! Chakra will not leak out at all, so that it will not be absorbed by Senpo would release, reducing one's attack power. Instead, chakra will run at high speed in the body, constantly accelerating one's punching speed, and increasing the power of physical skills. Seeing that Yusuke used only physical skills to resist his Senju Hashirama's eyes were full of admiration. Senpo would release's weakness has never been ninjutsu. Any ninjutsu, even Senpo attacks, will appear pale and powerless in front of wood release, even fire release. As long as the attack contains chakra, the chakra in it will be absorbed by wood release to enhance its power. This is also the main reason why the entire ninja world is so afraid of wood release. But that's all, wood release has more than just the ability to absorb chakra. As he said this, a powerful aura surged from him. His eyes became firm and sharp, as if to penetrate all obstacles. At this moment, he shouted softly, "Buddha on the top of the head." Before he finished speaking, the Buddha, who had been sitting cross-legged and attacking, stood up. His body, which was already 800 meters high, seemed to be injected with infinite power at this moment. He rose another 400 meters, reaching an amazing height of 1,200 meters. The Buddha's head also underwent an amazing change. 5 huge Buddha faces slowly emerged on his bald forehead. These Buddha faces were lifelike, showing 5 different expressions of joy, anger, worry, sadness, and pity, as if they contained the emotions and wisdom of all things in the world. Then, an even more spectacular scene appeared. Each Buddha face opened its mouth and spit out a huge beam of light of 100 meters. These lights represent the 5 major attributes of ninjutsu: wind, thunder, water, fire, and earth. They intertwined and merged with each other, and finally gathered into a torrent of energy that destroyed the world, with unparalleled power, and blasted towards Shangsuke. Faced with such a terrifying attack, Shangsuke felt unprecedented pressure. But he did not retreat. He clenched his fists tightly, and the muscles of his whole body tightened, ready to meet this blow. Daytime Tiger. The light came in an instant, and Yusuke shouted loudly, using all his strength to punch forward. The air within a radius of 1 kilometer was compressed in the fist, and with the punch, it turned into a 1,000-meter-long white tiger shock wave. This punch was the secret physical technique of the Jingmun in the 8 gates of ninjutsu. With Yusuke's current physical fitness, it was very easy to hit this punch. The power of the daytime tiger is already unparalleled. Now that it is in the state of super multiplication, the power is hundreds of times stronger than the original version, enough to be comparable to the Buddha on the top of the 1,000 hands Hashirama. The white tiger collided with the energy torrent, and endless white light flashed. The figures of Yusuke and Senju Hashirama flew backwards from the white light, their bodies also covered with burns. Especially Yusuke, more than 80% of his 100-meter-long body was burned. The white light just now was a high-density energy formed by the collision of 2 super-strong energies, which melted the Buddha in just an instant. Yusuke released the doubling technique and fell to the ground, gasping for breath. His vision was blurred, but he still tried to look up at Senju Hashirama. Senju Hashirama was even worse than Yusuke. More than half of his body was melted by the white light, and he was completely unconscious at this moment. Gray-white scraps of paper kept repairing his broken body. "Haha, Yusuke Akamichi, how are you going to survive now? Go!" Danzo's excited voice sounded from a distance, followed by a dozen black shadows running towards Yusuke. These people were the remaining elite Jonin of the route. Shiki Fujin. More than a dozen Jonin quickly formed hand seals, and behind them all appeared a demon god who looked like a red demon and had a dagger in his mouth. It was the god of death summoned by Shiki Fujin. More than a dozen people performed the instant body technique at full speed at the same time, and they were in front of Yusuke in a few breaths, reaching out to grab him. These root members grabbed Yusuke and directly pulled out a blue phantom, which was Yusuke's soul. Sarutobi Hiruzen and Shimura Danzo, who followed, saw this and immediately smiled. After the soul is completely pulled out, it will be completely at the mercy of the god of death. In this way, Yusuke Akamichi will be dead. But the next second, the two showed incredible eyes. That's the god of death, he can't even shake Yusuke Akamichi's soul, how is this possible? Yusuke's originally pulled out soul was seen slowly returning to his body. No matter how hard these root Jonin tried, they could not stop it. No, we can't let Yusuke Akamichi's soul return to its place, otherwise all our efforts will be wasted. Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen also reacted quickly, using the instant body technique to rush out, and at the same time ordered a dozen root Jonin. Don't think about the demonic sealing art, use swords, use ninjutsu, as long as you can kill Yusuke Akamichi. Half of the dozen root Jonin immediately took their hands off Yusuke's body, drew out the ninja swords on their backs, the poison in the ninja tool bags, and directly greeted Ideographic Kama. Clang! 3 ninja swords with wind attribute chakra chopped at Yusuke's neck, but they did not chop off his head as they had hoped. Instead, they made a metallic friction sound. Fire style. Great fireball jutsu. The other root ninjas nearby saw that the ninja sword was useless, and they didn't care that their teammates were next to Yusuke, and they quickly formed seals with their hands, and 3 fireballs emitting blazing high temperatures were fired. The high temperature flames burned on Yusuke, but only made his skin turn black, and could not cause any substantial damage. On the contrary, the several root members who were maintaining the Shikigami Fusus around were burned to ashes in a moment. These root ninjas knew that they would surely die after casting the Shikigami Fusus, and they were only loyal to Danzo and were not afraid of death, and would only complete the tasks assigned by Danzo. Without the restraint of these death gods, Yusuke's soul returned to its place in an instant, his eyes suddenly opened, and he stood up with 3 great fireball jutsu, and disappeared from the spot the next second. After a few flashes, the heads of the root members who besieged him flew up. Yusuke landed steadily, and did not look at Sarutobi Hiruzen and Danzo who had rushed over, but turned and looked forward, saying, "Does Lord Hashirama understand?" Sarutobi Hiruzen's pupils shrank as he was walking. He stopped and looked at the place where Senju Hashirama fell to the ground. He saw that Senju Hashirama's body had recovered by more than half and his consciousness had long been restored. He was looking at him coldly at this moment. The disappointment and murderous intent in his eyes made him tremble. Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart squeaked. As the first Hokage, the founder of Konoha's original philosophy, and the origin of the will of fire, Senju Hashirama couldn't stand hurting his companions, let alone this kind of situation where his companions were hurt to ashes for the sake of victory. He must have seen that the root had just killed his companions in order to kill Akamichi Yusuke. No, to kill Yusuke Akamichi, we must have the power of the first generation. Thinking of this, Sarutobi Hiruzen quickly formed seals with both hands and began to communicate with the control talisman in Hashirama Senju's mind, trying to manipulate Hashirama Senju, but no matter how he communicated, Hashirama Senju remained unmoved. Don't waste your energy, monkey. There is a huge gap between our strengths. Even the impure world reincarnation technique can't control me. Senju Hashirama's voice was colder than ever before, and his words were full of rebukes. Now, tell me, monkey, why did you do this? Sarutobi Hiruzen's face turned pale, and his heart was filled with regret. Why didn't he consider that Senju Hashirama would be out of control? The first generation with full strength was reborn from the impure world. Why else? For the position of Hokage, and to keep Konoha under his control. Yusuke looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen with a teasing expression, his tone very disdainful. In order to firmly sit on the position of Hokage over the years, he did not hesitate to join forces with Danzo to harm those in the village who threatened his position, including the Senju clan, and even your grandson Senju Nawaki is a victim of his politics. Yusuke's words were like a sharp sword, piercing the defense line in Sarutobi Hiruzen's heart. He widened his eyes, staring at Yusuke in disbelief, beads of sweat rolling down his forehead. In Konoha today, apart from the clan members who have integrated into the civilian population and are worthy of the name of the Senju, there is only Tsunade who is traveling in the ninja world. Oh, that's right. It seems that Tsunade is worthy of the name of the Senju. Yusuke continued, with a hint of sarcasm in his voice. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen's body trembled slightly, and finally couldn't help it. He refuted loudly, and his voice echoed in the air. You are talking nonsense. I'm talking nonsense. Yusuke's tone became even more disdainful, and he asked back, then how did you say that the Senju clan disappeared? Why did Konoha White Fang commit suicide? The Uchiha clan is now divided into several parts, and its strength is getting weaker and weaker. They hate you high-ranking officials to the extreme. Senju clan. Senju clan. White Fang. Sarutobi Hiruzen tried to argue, but he was so anxious that he couldn't think of any explanation for a moment. On the side, Senju Hashirama's face became darker and darker. He put his hands together and shouted. Wood release. Silent binding technique. A dozen wooden strips instantly grew out from under Sarutobi Hiruzen's feet, winding and circling around him and binding him tightly. The characteristics of wood release made it impossible for Sarutobi Hiruzen to speak. Shimura Danzo's face suddenly changed, and while Hashirama Senju and Yusuke Akamichi were focusing on Sarutobi Hiruzen, he slowly began to retreat. Master Danzo, where do you want to go? Danzo was about to leave when a hand patted his shoulder, startling him. Turning his head, he saw Yusuke, whose injury had fully recovered, standing behind him with a smile on his face. Yusuke looked at Danzo with a faint smile on his face. He gently raised his hand and placed it on Danzo's shoulder, as if hinting at something. Danzo, do you think you can escape? Yusuke's voice was calm but with a hint of sarcasm. Danzo's face became extremely ugly. He tried to break free from Yusuke's restraints, but found that he was powerless. At this moment, Senju Hashirama came over. His eyes revealed a kind of majesty and disappointment. Not only was he disappointed with Sarutobi Hiruzen, but he was also disappointed in himself, who actually believed in such a Hokage. Multiplying detonating talismans. A fierce look flashed in Danzo's eyes, and he spread his hands to his chest, and a handful of detonating talismans were scattered out. Boom, boom, boom. The exploding talismans exploded one by one, and flames shot up into the sky. One exploding talisman is not scary, but thousands of exploding talismans gathered together are very scary, and quantitative change leads to qualitative change. Danzo's explosion lasted for more than 10 minutes, until Danzo felt dazed. You have to know that his body is now in the state of impure world reincarnation, and the battle has almost no consumption. He can feel dazed now, which shows the high intensity of the use of the multiplication of exploding talismans. You're dead now. Danzo looked at the fire eagerly, hoping to see Yusuke's body. However, after the smoke cleared, Yusuke's figure appeared in front of everyone intact. There was a sneer on his lips, as if he was mocking Danzo's futile efforts. Do you think you can kill me like this? You really underestimated me. Yusuke brushed off the dust on his body and approached Danzo step by step. Danzo retreated in horror. He never thought that Yusuke could resist the attack of the multiplying detonating tags so easily. At this moment, he truly realized the gap in strength between him and Yusuke. Unfortunately, it was too late. The huge gap in strength could not be made up by conspiracy and tricks. Of course, this could not be blamed on Danzo and Sarutobi Hiruzen, because after the death of Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, people of this strength never appeared again, and the strongest people in the ninja world were at most cage-level strongmen like them. They could indeed be killed by certain conspiracies and tricks. Because of this, the two were confident in killing Akamichi Yusuke. The dead should die, why did you come back? Yusuke's expression was cold, and he slowly walked to the pale and staggering Danzo, and the sealing technique in his hand flowed, without giving Danzo a chance to speak, and directly imprinted it on his chest. The black sealing technique instantly spread all over Danzo's body, and then began to twist and shrink. Danzo's body was like a twist, and soon shrank into a small ball, turning into an ink ball. Bang! The ink ball exploded directly, leaving ink all over the ground. After doing all this, Yusuke turned his head to look at Senju Hashirama and said, "Showtime, what are you going to do?" Senju Hashirama looked at Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was tied up tightly with wooden strips, his eyes full of confusion, and whispered softly, "Why did it become like this? Is that position so fascinating that even the monkey I watched grow up since I was a child has become like this?" The human heart is unpredictable and the most fickle. Human nature is also the worst existence in this world. Even I cannot guarantee that I can remember my original intention and remain consistent. The human heart is unpredictable and the most fickle. If you and Uchiha Madara had unified the entire ninja world, you could have maintained peace for at least 100 years, and there wouldn't be so many troubles now, and there wouldn't have been 3 consecutive ninja wars, and the number of ninja deaths would have been several times higher than during the Warring States period. The death toll in the Ninja World War was several times that of the clashes between the families during the Warring States period. This is not what Shangji said, but a fact. With the participation of the civilian ninja world, the number of ninjas has skyrocketed by dozens of times, and the war has expanded to the entire ninja world. That's why the death of ninjas is far more than during the Warring States period. Hearing this, Senju Hashirama became even more confused, and kept muttering in his mouth, "Am I wrong? So is Madara's original proposal correct?" Shangji snorted coldly and continued, "You were right, Uchiha Madara is also right, or you two are both wrong. You are too naive and too idealistic, and you think everything is too beautiful. And Uchiha Madara is too realistic, too cold-blooded, and thinks everything is too bad. If your ideas can be combined together, it will be a very perfect theory, and perhaps you can create a perfect flourishing age." Yusuke sighed, waved his hand at Senju Hashirama, and said, "Okay, don't think too much. Now that it has happened, it is meaningless to worry about who is right and who is wrong. The most important thing is to think about what to do next." Senju Hashirama took a deep breath and gradually regained his composure. He looked at Yusuke in front of him and said in a deep voice, "You are right. Monkey will definitely not be able to be the Hokage next. Do you have a candidate? Or do you want to be the Hokage yourself?" "I don't have any idea about Hokage." Yusuke waved his hand to refuse. "However, I do have a person to recommend. With his character, if he can become Hokage, he may be able to lead Konoha to a new height." Senju Hashirama asked quickly, "Who?" Yusuke smiled and said, "His name is Namikaze Minato, and his strength is close to the threshold of our level. His character and personality are impeccable. Even Sarutobi Hiruzen can't find much fault with him. Then it's him." Without any hesitation, Senju Hashirama agreed to Yusuke's proposal. "But before that, Showtime, do you still need a favor?" "What help?" Yusuke's words made Senju Hashirama even more confused. He was just a dead man and should not interfere in the affairs of the ninja world. Returning to the Pure Land as soon as possible was what he should do most. Sarutobi Hiruzen has been running Konoha for many years, and his prestige among the villagers is extremely high. It would be difficult to force him out of the position of Hokage without overwhelming evidence. But you are different, you are the first generation Hokage, and your prestige among the older generation in the village is unmatched. With your support, it should be easier to take down Sarutobi Hiruzen's position of Hokage." Of course, Yusuke had also thought about finding an opportunity to quietly get rid of Sarutobi Hiruzen like he killed Danzo, and then nominate Namikaze Minato to take the position, but was rejected by Namikaze Minato and Orochimaru, saying that Sarutobi Hiruzen had made no contributions to the position of Hokage for so many years. It is true that, as the two said, Sarutobi Hiruzen did not do many things well as a Hokage, but he still had certain contributions to Konoha, at least in the training of civilian ninjas. He was much better than the previous two generations of Hokage. Besides, Namikaze Minato didn't want to become Hokage in this way. In the end, it could only be left unresolved. Ever since Sarutobi Hiruzen became Hokage, he has been eliminating the influence of the first and second generations on Konoha, the disappearance of the Senju clan, the death of the older generation of ninjas, and he is also the strongest Hokage in the Hokage textbooks. These are the measures he has taken. But there are so many old people living in Konoha village, and Sarutobi Hiruzen has no way to do everything. Whether it is in the Akamichi, Hyuga, Uchiha and other families, or the Senju clan and Konoha residents who have integrated into the civilian population, there are still many old people alive, and all of these people worship Senju Hashirama to the extreme. With these people, Senju Hashirama thought that it would be much easier to abolish Sarutobi Hiruzen. Senju Hashirama lowered his eyebrows and thought for a while, then nodded in response. "I thought Sarutobi Hiruzen was a good Hokage, but I didn't expect him to be this kind of person. Lord Shungshu and Lord Baya died because of him. Get out of the village. You don't deserve to sit in that position." Senju Hashirama decided to assist Yusuke. With his prestige among the older generation in the village and the mistakes made by Sarutobi Hiruzen, he successfully let people see his true face. Amid the condemnation of many villagers, Sarutobi Hiruzen had to resign from the position of Hokage. Afterwards, Namikaze Minato successfully became the new Hokage. Senju Hashirama also lifted the impure world reincarnation technique and returned to the Pure Land. The Hokage succession ceremony was held a month later, and Namikaze Minato's yanyan also began to be carved, and the Hokage cloak began to be rushed. Sarutobi Hiruzen could be spared the death penalty, but he could not escape the living crime. In the end, his chakra that had been sealed for a lifetime was thrown out of the village, and he went to wander in the ninja world to experience the life of ordinary people. With Yusuke's attainments in the sealing technique, very few people in this world can lift the seal, so Sarutobi Hiruzen is completely useless. From now on, I, Minato Namikaze, will be the fourth Hokage. I hope you will encourage each other and bear with me. Minato Namikaze stood on the rooftop of the Hokage building, wearing a Hokage haori. His voice was loud and gentle, giving people a feeling of being bathed in spring breeze. Lord Hokage, the fourth generation, Lord Minato, I want to give birth to a monkey for you. The villagers cheered happily, but Kushina, who was holding Naruto, looked unhappy. She stared at the girls who shouted that they wanted to give birth to Minato's children. She was very unfriendly. Minato is mine. Yusuke stood on the roof of the ear in the distance, looking at the high-spirited Minato in the Hokage building from afar, and smiled. With Minato in power, Konoha was completely on the right track. The next thing was Black Zetsu's infinite moon reading plan and the threat of Otsutsuki. As long as these two were solved, he could completely and safely cultivate immortality and be his own gourmet. In the Hokage's office, Yusuke took out a large scroll from the storage wristband and placed it on the desk, then looked at Minato who was wearing the Hokage hat and smiled. Brother Minato, these are the various chakra training methods I have compiled over the years. You can pass them on to those who are loyal to you later. Minato took the scroll doubtfully and said doubtfully, you can keep these for yourself, why give them to me? Yusuke explained, now that Konoha is stable, I plan to travel around the ninja world to find some ingredients I haven't seen before and work hard for my dream of becoming a gourmet. The ninja world is a world with extraordinary powers. There are many foods that did not exist on Earth in previous lives, and many ingredients recorded in ancient times on Earth are written into the protection laws. There are no restrictions in this regard in the ninja world. As long as you want, you can eat anything that flies in the sky, swims in the water, or runs on the ground. Can't you just stay and help me? Brother Minato, you also know that I am not interested in this. Besides, Konoha now has Orochimaru, Jiraiya, White Fang, Tsunade and others to help you. It won't matter if I'm missing. Besides, it's not like I won't come back. Don't forget that I still have several disciples in Konoha. Okay, Minato thought about it and agreed, because he knew that even if he kept Yusuke, he would not stay in the office to deal with these trivial matters. It would be better to let him travel. Then I'm leaving. Waving his hand, Yusuke pushed the door and left the office. He first said goodbye to his parents, then went to the Uchiha clan, handed over the deduced Sharingan training method and the 6-vault immortal thief to Itachi, and at the same time gave him a few instructions, and then left Konoha to travel in the ninja world. 6 years have passed in a flash. Shangsuke has traveled all over the ninja world and tasted all kinds of rare animals. Among them, the beef from the land of thunder, the rock cuisine from the land of earth, and the seafood from the land of water are what Shangsuke is most satisfied with. Even for this reason, Shangsuke often goes deep into the sea and finds many super large summoned beasts and fish, and even finds 2 tunas over 10 meters long, which makes him eat delicious food. At the same time, the cultivation of the 8 major systems of the human body has been completed, and even the most difficult nervous system has been successfully cultivated. The meridians of the whole body are all opened, and the sage mode is completely normalized, reaching the level of the sage in the ninja world. Because all the meridians are opened, Shangsuke has also successfully opened up the Sea of Qi in the Dantian. The original seal of the Sea of Qi was removed by Shangsuke, leaving only the Sea of Qi carried by the human body. Now the chakra in Shangsuke's body can no longer be called chakra, because the nature has completely changed. He calls this new energy mana, indicating his future goals. Now Shangsuke's strength has completely reached the level of the 6-path sage, and his vitality has reached an astonishing level. Even he himself does not know how long he can live. In a forest in the land of fire. On a huge stove, there is a big pot with tiger bone soup in it. Yusuke is cutting the hazel grouse he caught on the chopping board next to him, preparing to cook chicken stewed with mushrooms. In another pot, he is cooking 3 delicacies, using tiger meat, bear meat and venison. Soon, Yusuke's mouth is full of oil, tasting the tiger bone soup, and he begins to think about the next path. Now my immortal body has been completely completed, and my soul has reached a limit under the practice of the spirit transformation technique. How should I practice next? I wonder if Orochimaru's creation of the 3 levels of reverse life has been successful. Until the food was finished, Yusuke had not thought of a way forward. He really had no idea. The most feasible way was to practice the 3 levels of reverse life, and the other was to form a golden elixir. However, the only theory of forming a golden elixir was to concentrate the spirit, energy and spirit. He had no idea how to do it specifically. It's been so many years since I left, it's time to go back. With a sigh, Yusuke quickly finished the food in his hand, stood up, tidied his clothes, and walked towards Konoha. In the 6 years under the leadership of Minato Namikaze, Konoha has changed a lot. The area alone is 50% larger than before, and the number and quality of ninjas have increased. The broad-minded Minato Namikaze did not suppress the family ninjas, nor did he extremely exclude the Uchiha clan like Hiruzen Sarutobi. He even allowed the children of the Uchiha clan to study in the ninja school, instead of only a few people from a certain clan being able to enroll as before. Of course, Minato also improved the status of civilian ninjas, opened up universal ninjutsu that was not a family secret technique, and improved the promotion channel for ninjas. Konoha can be said to be thriving now. When they arrived at the gate of the village, the future gatekeeper duo, Gang Zidetsu and Izumo, were guarding the gate. When they saw Yusuke, they rubbed their eyes in disbelief, and then cheered happily, "Lord Yusuke, you are finally back." If Lord Hokage knew, he would be very happy. Is Mizumin in the office? Yes, Lord Hokage should be in the office reviewing documents at this time. Yusuke nodded and walked towards the Hokage's office. Dad, die. As soon as Yusuke entered the Hokage building, he saw a little yellow-haired boy with fox whiskers on his face, holding a wooden kunai in reverse, and rushing towards the Hokage's office yelling. This is Naruto. No way. Looking at the child's iconic orange clothes and forehead protector, Yusuke couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, with a confused look on his face. This seems to be a little different from the Naruto he remembered. Naruto, stop messing around, wait until I finish grading today's assignments, then I'll go play with you. Dad, you've said this so many times, and it came true this time. Listening to the noisy conversation inside, Yusuke realized that Minato Namikaze had also fallen into the same fate as Naruto in the original novel. Every day, he had to deal with countless matters personally. Without the Hokage advisor, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade were not in charge. In addition, Konoha became more prosperous, so even if Minato had a shadow clone, he would come home very late every day and spend very little time with his family. If White Fang hadn't returned, Nara Shikaku will help with some minor matters, and he probably won't be able to go home. Thinking of this, Yusuke was also glad that he didn't agree to stay in Konoha, otherwise he would have to try this kind of life, which he didn't want to do. His previous life was tiring enough, and he wanted to enjoy it in this life. When he walked into the office, Yusuke saw Naruto leaning on Minato's head and shaking it hard. The father and son were interacting with each other in such a selfless way. Cough, cough. The father and son didn't notice anyone coming in. Although they didn't want to disturb them, it was really eye-catching. Finally, Yusuke couldn't help it and coughed twice to remind them. Hearing the sound, Namikaze Minato pulled Naruto off his head, held him in his arms, and looked at the person who came with a look of surprise. Yusuke smiled and said, "Brother Minato, I'm back." Minato shouted in surprise, "Smelly boy, it's been 6 years, and you finally decided to come back. Kushina complained to me 2 days ago that you didn't come back. Come to my house for dinner tonight." "Well, I'll go after I say hello to my parents." Yusuke nodded and did not refuse. He walked to Minato in 3 steps, looked at the yellow-haired boy in his arms, and smiled, "I haven't seen you for 6 years. Naruto has grown beyond my expectations." It was indeed unexpected. Although Naruto in the original work liked to play pranks, that was just a way to relieve loneliness. Now he is developing towards Boruto. Of course, Naruto may have higher qualifications, because his chakra alone is 30 times that of Kakashi at the beginning. Hearing this, Minato smiled bitterly. Naruto has been basically brought up by Kushina these years, and he has been a little spoiled. I am really unqualified as a father. I don't even have time to educate my son. Naruto sat in Minato Namikaze's arms, looking at Yusuke curiously. After a long time, he suddenly pointed at Yusuke and exclaimed, "So you are the Yusuke Akamichi that my mother was talking about. I want to challenge you, so that I can be the strongest in Konoha." It seems that I was overthinking it. With such a silly boy like this, it is impossible for him to become like Boruto. Seeing this, Yusuke was very upset. This reaction was worthy of the reincarnation of Ashura. It seemed that I was really worrying too much. Yusuke rubbed Naruto's hair and sneered disdainfully, "Haha, just you. Let's wait until you grow up. Just wait, I will be stronger than you when I grow up." Naruto tried to break free from Yusuke's big hand, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't get any more, and he shouted in frustration. After rubbing for a while, Yusuke withdrew his hand, and Naruto broke free from Minato's arms and ran away without a trace. "This child." Minato shook his head helplessly. Yusuke comforted him, "Don't worry, Minato. Naruto will definitely become an excellent ninja in the future." Minato asked, "I hope so. By the way, what are your plans for coming back this time?" "I don't have many plans. At most, I will teach the disciples I accepted back then, open a small restaurant, and cook occasionally." Shangsuke said his plan. "If you don't come to help me, I will give you the position of Hokage advisor. I believe that with your contribution to Konoha, no one will say anything." Minato still hopes that Yusuke can help him. In the past 6 years, as Konoha has become stronger, he has to deal with more and more things, and he is a little too busy. "Forget it, but I can give you a suggestion, Brother Minato, so that you won't be so tired." Then Yusuke told Minato Namikaze all the systems he knew in his previous life, and let him consider it himself and choose the system that suits Konoha. "I will think about it." Minato closed his eyes and began to think. "Brother Shuiman, I will go back to visit my parents first and then go to your house in the evening." "Okay, I will wait for you." After returning home, Wei Chang had dinner with his parents and talked about the interesting things that happened in the past 6 years. Especially when he heard that Shangsuke had eaten many delicious foods that they had never eaten before, his saliva almost flowed out. Shu looked at Shangsuke eagerly and asked, "Son, do you still have those foods?" Although Xinyan on the side did not speak, her eyes were also full of expectation. Shangsuke had already considered this, so he kept a lot of each ingredient he hunted, and there was no time flow in the sealing space, so it always remained fresh. Smiling, he took out a huge scroll from the storage wristband, and Shangsuke handed it to Xinyan's hand and smiled, "Mom, I have prepared it a long time ago, and I also have the recipe. I believe that with your cooking skills, you will definitely make it better than mine." Xinyan took the scroll and ran to the kitchen impatiently, took out the ingredients in the scroll, and started cooking. And Shu also followed into the kitchen to help, leaving Shangsuke alone at the dining table. "Well, I can only say that they are indeed members of the Chu Dao tribe. They are all foodies." Shangsuke smiled awkwardly, finished all the food on the table, and went in to help. In the afternoon, Yusuke took the food and walked towards Minato's house. He pushed the door and walked into the house. He found that the house was full of people. Orochimaru, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Whitefang and Kakashi were all there. A group of people were gathered together chatting, while Kushina and Minato were helping in the kitchen. Orochimaru sensed Yusuke's breath as soon as he entered the door. He turned around and smiled gently, "Yusuke, you are finally back. If you don't come back, I will find you." The others also smiled and greeted Yusuke. Tsunade even crossed the distance of dozens of meters in one step and put her arm around Yusuke's neck. Yusuke's face was buried directly in the huge evil and said, "You are finally back. Come up with a theory for me quickly. I want to beat that stinky snake." Jiraiya next to him was envious and drooled. Hearing this, Yusuke was stunned for a moment, and looked up at Orochimaru with difficulty. He found that his breath had completely changed. It was no longer as cold as before, but had a kind of neutral and peaceful state. The most important thing is Orochimaru's state. In his perception, it is the same as the tailed beast, and its strength has reached its previous state. "Teacher, your reverse triple is successful." Tsunade let go of Yusuke and said unhappily, Otherwise I wouldn't ask you to help me come up with a set of training theories. Now this stinky snake is unmatched in the entire Konoha. Even Minato can't beat him with the Flying Thunder God technique. Orochimaru smiled and said nothing. From his current state, Yusuke guessed that Orochimaru not only gained strength, but also his lifespan was probably improved. Otherwise, Orochimaru's state would not be so relaxed, and even the originally cold aura had changed. Nodding to Orochimaru, Yusuke turned to look at Tsunade, wondering, "Lady Tsunade, I remember that I gave all my training theories to Minato-san. Didn't you read it?" Thinking of the huge scroll, Tsunade felt her scalp tingling. Recalling the scene when she was a child learning medical ninjutsu, she smiled bitterly and said, "I have read it. Although I know the Yin Seal and can quickly transform your training theory into my own, the speed is too slow. It's not as fast as Orochimaru's 3-level reverse birth." Yusuke smiled, "I can't do anything about it. With your physique, Lady Tsunade, the most suitable one is my theory of the sage body, not the 3-level reverse birth. As for the speed of training, it depends on the individual. There is not much difference between the two, but the 3-level reverse birth is easier to see the effect." "I see." Tsunade nodded thoughtfully. At this time, Minato came out of the kitchen and said with a smile, "The food is ready, come and try it." Everyone walked to the dining table and began to taste the delicious food. While eating, Tsunade did not forget to ask Yusuke about training issues. After the meal, Yusuke said goodbye to everyone and left Minato's house. He secretly sighed in his heart that everyone had changed a lot after returning this time. Not only Orochimaru, but also Tsunade, White Fang, Jiraiya and Kakashi have changed. Tsunade's hemophobia has long been cured, and now she is the director of Konoha Hospital, responsible for the training of medical ninjas in the entire Konoha. Jiraiya also seldom goes out, because the prophecy of the Great Toad Sage has changed, and he is no longer entangled in the Son of Savior, but his goal is he put it on Yusuke because he felt that Yusuke was the person that the Great Toad Sage said. Kakashi also temporarily came out of the death of Obito and Rin because of the return of White Fang, and was driven out of the Anbu by White Fang. He was just an ordinary Konoha Jonin. Every day, he held the pornographic book written by Jiraiya and competed with Guy and others. He has become the dead fish-eyed appearance in the original work. These people, together with Guy, Asuma Sarutobi, Kurenai, Shisui and Itachi, can now be said to be the real number one in the ninja world. No ninja village came to stroke the tiger's whiskers, and the incidents of Kumokage village and Hyuga Hazashi in the original work did not happen. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.